Hey, what's going on, everyone? It is David Palmer, Leo King, and this is your weekly Divinity report for the horoscope of May 19th through the 25th of 2021. Hope everybody's doing wonderful out there. Of course, this is where I go public with, my weekly Divinity report. That's what I'm calling it now because I'm switching a couple things, but it's not really crazy switch. Deep Astrology, of course, is on High Vibe, and I do that first now, and then you all get the after show, and I just give a little bit of what I figured out through Deep Astrology, but of course, the full Deep Astrology is, of course, on highvibe.tv. So this is just the live where I kind of go over what I feel is the meat and potatoes and kind of like here you go, like for those that for some reason don't want to join High Vibe out there, which I think is, up to you, of course. But if you really want the full report, it's Deep Astrology. It's on highvibe.tv. And this is just where I'm checking in publicly, like I say I always do, which I always show up and spread the light. So there's a lot of things to talk about on this moment in time, because I think that this is a much deeper astrological week than most. It's got very intense connections to 2012. It has very intense aspects because, of course, we're heading into eclipse season. We're heading into a Saturn stationing to retrograde this weekend. We are moving into Gemini. We have the Sun square Jupiter. We have Mercury square Neptune this weekend, and that's going to be the first Mercury square Neptune. We're going to get a Mercury retrograde square Neptune with a solar eclipse on the Cassini. And then we're also going to get another Mercury square Neptune when it comes direct. So there's also the show where I can publicly, speak with people in the chat. So I'm on YouTube and I'm on Instagram Live. But if you're on Instagram, just know that you're watching a show that has a lot more than just, me and you talking like this. Like, there's multiple cameras and stuff and multiple angles. So I'm here at the Divinity studio. That's what I'm calling this room. So, some people are asking how I'm doing. I'm doing great. I mean, I've really had a really spectacular life lately, I have zero complaints. I think there's always things in life I can, wish I did more of. I got a lot of first world problems, but they're really literally first world problems. They're not even problems. I have too many things going on to finish things that I want to finish, right? So if that's my problem in my life, I don't even call that a problem. I'm blessed. So I'm feeling really good. I'm sure you all saw, I did make a post, I found a girl. So I'm really stoked about that. And Ashley's wonderful. And if you didn't know, you can go look at Instagram and stuff like that. I'm a Leo. So when it comes to love, and when you're into somebody, you blast them, right? You show the world your queen, it's so weird because I'm hearing this from a lot of ladies out there. They're like, wow, my dude doesn't ever show pictures of me or want to show any of that. And maybe it's a Leo thing. Leo's I think Leos have the loyalty element so much, but we also are, show offs, and we want to show off our love, and we want everybody else to kind of experience and see the person in life that we have a lot of affection for. And so it's a show of affection in many ways. As Leos, we show affection in so many ways. So I appreciate so many of the beautiful and loving comments from everybody on my Facebook and Instagram, but I haven't really talked about it much on YouTube. I did on Deep Love Tarot on Monday on YouTube, but just very little. And for everybody wanting to know, because I'm just going to be honest, everybody wanted to know what was her zodiac stuff. She did post it on her Instagram, so I think I could give it away because it's on her Instagram, and I've tagged her in my Instagram post. But she's a Libra, and she's a Gemini rising and a Scorpio moon, for those that were all wondering. So other than that, I've been racing. That's a big thing, though, other than that, but that's a big thing. And then racing, I've been racing a lot. So as you can tell, I look like I've been out in the sun a lot. Because I have. I've been out to Arizona racing for the last 3 weeks straight, and then I raced in April. So, and then I was off-roading, my Can-Am, my side-by-side a lot in April. So, I mean, I'm out in the desert a lot. I spend my weekends doing things. I like to be outside. I don't like to be cooped up. I don't like to just sit around. I like to be creating here at the studios. And then I feel like being outdoors and doing those kind of things are very creative. And I love racing jet skis, and I love being on, both race tours that I'm on, and racing every race that I can. So yeah, I'm doing good. And I hope everybody else is doing good out there. I want to say this coming into this week, that I believe that we are in the most epic time of our lives. And I'm going to really go into that because I think that a lot of people want proof for that, which I do have. But there's a catch to it. And it's been coming up with not only a lot of the work that the divine has been, using a lot of this Jupiter Pisces and Neptune Pisces energy to kind of like guide me to again, and like look at it from fresh new eyes. And also like, the older I get as an astrologer, the better I get. And the more, I would say that the capacity of understanding what I do with my research just clicks even more after the years. And ironically enough, what we're going to do right now is really look really quick into a chart from the past, from 9 years ago, and how it's connected to this week, actually starting May 20th when the sun enters Gemini. So we'll start with that right now to kind of bridge what I'm going to be talking about, what to really focus on this week. And it's interesting that I'm even coming out with this being the Divinity report now every week, because I feel that it's really clear as day. If you want to listen to other astrology, that's your thing. But if you want to listen to astrology that's based upon divinity and about God and about the highest of the light and light workers energy and the most beautiful energy that we are here to connect with, and to see through the darkness and to see through the deception, that's where this place is at. If you have problems with that, you're triggered. You're in a place where you can't handle divinity. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, you don't probably appreciate divinity, and you probably don't actually believe in God, because there's a lot of people who don't believe in God, and a lot of people who don't connect astrology and God. And that's not this channel. I've always connected God. The whole time since my beginning of all this, I've always connected it to the highest of creator and love. And a lot of people seem to kind of get sometimes stuck on, man, you're so negative. And it's just like, that's just a projection. Like, I'm not going to fucking own your shit, right? Like, it's just like, that's your projection, because you get triggered by my 5-1, in human design. Can't handle me being a 5-1. Can't handle me being a manifesting generator and just running circles around you. Like, literally running circles around you. Like, probably making you dizzy. So, if you think I'm negative, I think it's just because you don't know how to handle truth, and you're probably on the side of the false truth right now. And it must suck being locked up in that jail, in that prison of that false truth, and not having divinity on your side, because really you're the one that is only in divinity when you do not question divinity. And I think that the idea of coming from a place of logic is despicable, because it's without divinity. Like, the idea of just using the mind or just looking for fact without looking for universal truth is a completely different set of circumstances when we're dealing with truth. Like, there are facts out there. Those are random numbers. Those are random facts. Those are random things. But divine truth, divinity, and connecting to following without question, because technically you are judging spirit by questioning spirit. And I know that might sound like you're an idiot. Well, that means you're a skeptic. And when you're in your skepticism of the divine, you are not in the divine. The only way you're in the divine is when you are 100% trusting in that intuitive hit and that 100% godly energy without question. The only things that you question are when spirit brings you to things and it doesn't feel like it's from divinity, and that energy is trying to force its energy into your vibration, and it won't allow you to question it, and it tries to laugh at you about it and tries to throw the most basic bullshit excuses like conspiracy theory or, oh, that's not fact. It's like, oh, okay, the fact of what? Like, let's look at what divine truth is. And I think that that's a very hard subject for people to even understand or comprehend, because the truth of divinity is seeing how divinity works and finding that same understanding, which is actually the truth itself, and understanding how the universe works, the universal laws, the natural laws, the supernatural, and how there is a mathematical aspect to it all, but in some weird supernatural way, you feel the supernatural, you feel it. It gives me goosebumps right now. I mean, I literally got goosebumps. You know what I mean? Anyway, there you go. They're still surviving up there. Woo. Because it's an essence. And I think that's so important, even just coming into this week, is understanding the essence of truth. The understanding of listening to what your intuitive feelings are mixed with the divinity, which is not questioned because you are then in judgment. And I'm quoting John Dee there, the astrologer. Like, by the way, 1500s. Not like, just some guy John Dee that you can go look up right now, like, and see his Twitter and see if he posted about what Bitcoin's doing today. No. And again, even if like people have questions about that, obviously it does not look divine the way it happened with the crypto market. So there's manipulation from things that are not from the divine. Easy. Look at the last year and a half. Obviously this was not natural. It was not a natural way for things. It was not a natural way for people using authoritarianism in a place, especially like America, and getting away with it and trying to use peer pressure and trying to use manipulation. That's not natural. That's not divinity. That is not the light. That is the dark. And that's how easy it is, because when you do not question divinity, then you can see where divinity is always. But because you could see where divinity always is, it's intuitively just as simple to see where it is not. And when people have these questions now, because the only questions are, what is this that does not feel divine? Because you don't question what is divine. You commit to it. You let it be that natural truth, and God bestows all the gifts upon you in your life. And that's divine timing. That's divine everything in your life. And I think that's very important to note. Even my situation with Ashley, like most people, like even her and I, we didn't even know, like I hadn't seen her in over a year, like, you know what I mean? And just this weekend, it was just divine timing. It was just like out of nowhere. The universe, you just know, because it's that feeling inside, and you have to, the only thing is not to question, it's just whether or not you take that leap of faith into divinity and trust when you see it, when you feel it, and it's all in alignment, and it just speaks God. God speaks through divinity, and you listen. You don't question, you listen and you accept and you bring it in. And that's the weird part, is that a lot of people right now are stuck in questioning things that are not part of divinity, but they're actually questioning divinity at the same time too. So they're stuck. They're stuck in the middle, which I'll be honest with you, would be horrible. It would be such a horrible place to be stuck in the middle of a place because you're too afraid to trust what the divine is trying to show you. And we live in a world right now with Jupiter and Neptune that the propaganda and the deception is extreme. And the ones that are not coming from divinity are going to tell you that you're delusional. Okay? When delusion is when you are not in divinity, when you are not using your logical elements, which is really the true divine intelligence, not artificial intelligence, which is what we're seeing all over the place now, which, to be honest with you, this is a question because I just got to be honest with you. So many charts, so many numbers, so many of these things that we have been seeing in our heads and our faces and on television just for the last year and a half. Who's concocting that shit together? And how come you don't really show us all of it? Or a good example was the polls, right, for the election. It was like, okay, yep, he's up to this much and he's down this low and da-da-da. And none of them were right. So that means that they were not divine polls. It was not divinity if you can't call it out. You know what I mean? It just doesn't, it just that's not what it was. That's not that's just some random error. There are no random errors in the universe if you believe in divinity. There is nothing that is random. Everything is divine. And this is the most important part of our year of 2021, if we're going to use that system. We are stepping into Gemini where the North Node is, and we are stepping into this with Mercury, the Lord of that house. We have the North Node there, which the nodes serve to the pleasure of the sun and the moon, and the king is coming in to Mercury's house with the Lord in there and Venus, and the servant, the North Node, the one that the sun wants to be with, is how you doing, sir? And I want truth. I want truth. That is what this Gemini is about. I want truth. I don't want corruption. Because some of the oldest astrology goes into, why have you always ever noticed that when you go into astrology and you look at the elements, why is it fire, earth, air, and then water? When usually you would think it would be, oh no, it's fire, air, and then earth, water. No, the way that the zodiac works is fire, earth, so Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer. Same thing as you go through the quadrants to finish it out. And that's because that ether and that fire of the strong ones and the strength, and then the earth comes after it, because that's what actually is, conforming it, containing it. And then it's in air where it can become corruptible. And then the destruction happens in water, where either you're destructed because you fell into the trap of the corruption, or it's destroying the corruption itself and purifying it. So that's some old 1100, 12th century astrology right there. But this is my way of looking at it. And what we'll do real quick is we'll show you the chart here. This is actually going back. But I'll show you this chart for this sun entering into Gemini. I just did deep astrology. So I'm going to show two charts for today's show. If you want to watch all the rest and where I go into everything deeper, join highvibe.tv and you watch deep astrology and all my daily content and all the other content that I do all the time on there, the 25 videos I do a week. So here we are, sun in Gemini at 000. Okay. Now, this is an important moment, because as I was just talking, we have that North Node there that serves to the pleasure of the sun and the moon. And here's the sun coming with this North Node. We're entering into eclipse season, and the sun knows it right away. Bang, up, servant in here. Now, it's not servant and this is going to trigger people, right? Because they think, oh, servant, like a slave? No. A divine servant that's here to change chapters in life. And I don't think that it's any coincidence at this time that we are going through a chapter change, especially with the eclipse season, but with Saturn stationing retrograde this weekend. This is massive chapter changes in people's life, okay? And we are in a mutable sign now, and there's a lot of mutability because we're in mutable nodes, and that's mutation. Now, that word has been used a lot this last year and a half. Are you mutating yourself into divinity, or are you mutating into the false divinity, which is false light in the dark? That is the biggest question on a very, very simple basis of the horoscope. I mean, I could probably just mic drop it right now and peace out and just be like, that's your horoscope. Because that's truly, really where it's at. Like, are you mutating yourself into falsity and mutating yourself where you are questioning God? You are not trusting in the divine plan at all. You're not trusting, and you are judging God instead of the other way around, which really, even that notion is really kind of a, really intense kind of like dogmatic aspect where it's like the peace of God, or are you not at peace with the divine? That's how I look at judgment and the scales and so forth. And we are going to see some Libra energy with this moon this week before the lunar eclipse next week. But when we look at this chart, this sun is activating more than just, as I've been speaking about, this North Node, the servant, Venus, which we just had a retrograde through here last year. And this is covering also that just finished the 2012 and the 2004 Venus eclipse cycle and retrogrades that were once every 120 years that we see Venus cross the sun and you can actually physically see it. So those are now over. And then last year, of course, was the end of that. But this is now coming on top of where the retrograde was of Venus, and like understanding that all of it is over. All of the Venus Gemini weird shit's over. It's past the North Node now. No more eclipse of Venus itself. No retrograde. Venus also just got out of her 40 days and 40 nights of darkness, which she was hanging out on the other side of the sun from Earth. And she's turned the corner, and she's now the evening star. And on sunset, you can completely now start to see Venus as she's starting to be that evening star. And even Mercury's right there too. And, is it just a normal sunset? Like, here's a good question. Most people out there in the world who, they just go look at the sunset. And I said it tonight in Deep Astrology. I thought it was hilarious. I was like, most people look at the sunset and maybe they drink their wine. And they're just trying to see how they're going to get inside the other person, right? Like on a date, we're saying, right? Or maybe one person and then the other person's just like looking for the other thing. Well, this guy's got money. Or, this guy's like, oh, she's got a hot fucking ass or whatever. Who knows? But this is where when you look at sunset now and right after the sun sets, to see Venus here and to see Mercury right there, know that North Node's right there because that's invisible, but also know that is the area in which we are about to see the eclipses. This is also covering the 2012 Venus retrograde eclipse and the 2012 solar eclipse that was in Gemini. So that was the last time that we had a solar eclipse in Gemini with the nodes right here, like this close in this area, but they were flipped. It was Saturn in a fixed sun, or no, I was Saturn in Libra actually, but there's quite a lot here that I'm going to help you all today bridge into seeing the activation of the sun just ingress into Gemini is a lot more than just the sun's in Gemini. It's a lot more than that. It's quite dramatic actually. And I think that it's one of the most important things for us to pay attention to, that this is not a demand for truth, but this is truth that is going to win. This is truth that is going to be the way. And we have to realize that a lot of whether or not truth prevails on this planet has to do with people that embody and not question divinity. Because when you question divinity and you choose, because you're lazy, to not do any of the trusting of your internal intuition that's divinely guided, and connected to God, then you're not embodying it. So I think it's been frustrating for a lot of people that follow astrology, spirituality, or especially the truth movement, let's call it, to watch people that we love, that we care about in the world, just follow the Jupiterian, Neptunian, here I am showing a television, right? Like the Oz effect of life, the media effect of making all their decisions of their mutation, is one way to put it, based upon whatever's just being said on there. I mean, it's like there's like no thought given into that, because you're thrown with, and let's just be very let's just be super real here for a second. If we take January 12th of 2020, when Saturn and Pluto conjuncted in Capricorn, with Jupiter in the same sign, but it was not near it, but it was still, we haven't seen that since 1284, but it was the Sun Cassini conjunction of Mercury and Ceres all at the same time, and it was 2 days after a lunar eclipse. So Mercury got blasted like never before by malefics, where Mercury will switch neutrality and will be a malefic or will be a benefic, okay? And I think that this is so important for people to realize that every what we call fact, which is really not divine fact, okay? The facts that are being thrown by the Neptunian media, let's not forget that right after that Saturn-Pluto conjunction, and as we came into February of 2020, we came into a retrograde of Mercury in Pisces, okay? That literally was the spell on Earth that what was fact was really fiction. Because if you look at this, just go and just for 1 second, look at every story and everything that was told of you would be fact and that was gonna happen, and then it all has not happened that way, okay? Everything has not, okay? But what's kind of crazy is ever since Jupiter came into Pisces, the most craziest propaganda is that it will look like it all is when it is not, to cover up so much of that, right? To make anything look divine that's really not, okay? And I think that that's the scariest part, is where people will deal with none of this makes sense for a year and a half, and then get to right now at this point and be like, oh wait, actually maybe it is, right? But being an astrologer or following astrology, let's not forget that Jupiter just entered into Pisces with Neptune in there, and they're both in the same sign, and they're both in their home, and they're both brothers, and both their father and grandfather in squares fighting. And let's not forget at the same token that we are about to come into a Mercury retrograde in Gemini during eclipse season, and the North Node's in Gemini. And truth is so much more than just facts and, logic and what science says and yada, yada, right? It is about what binds things together, what connects things together. And that is so important through the lens of the sacred of oneness of the divine. So Mercury is the ruler of astrology. Mercury is, believe it or not, the king of the planets. It is the only planet in glyph, and especially if you use the hieroglyphic monad, that has every planet in it, except of course the outer planets. But every planet glyph fits in Mercury. We got to have that hieroglyphic monad, but a lot of people don't realize that in that hieroglyphic monad, they're using everything from the glyphs of astrology. It's not like making up some glyph. That's not happening. Here, I could probably just give you a good example of that real quick. This is how you're going to understand truth through this period. Like, because there is going to be so much deception, and believe it or not, deception is the best when it doesn't look like deception, right? Deception is the best when it looks all fluffy and good. Everything's fine. Is anybody, like, oh, the inflation is just going to be whatever. I'll give my props out to a fellow astrologer, William Stickavers, because I think he said it best on his Facebook just the other day. The financial crash that is coming very fast here will be worse than all the effects of what we just went through the pandemic. Now, that wasn't his exact word. That's me adding the pandemic, but he said the pandemic. And I 100% concur with that. That the deception is like everything's fine now and everything's going to look like this, right? This really worked and this did this. What's sad is you don't even know. I'm just going to give you this is where you question about things because there's too many questions that aren't answered about a lot of this stuff. So it's like, what if the whole time all the numbers are fake? We're just going to hypothesize for a second and have some fun. What if all the numbers are fake about 2020, which already a lot of people are going to say they were, but I'm just saying okay, let's just take them as all real, right? And let's say they were all fake. And then everybody goes and gets their, you know what? And that's what saved the day. But what if you were to find out at the end of the day that those numbers were not real? Let's just say, okay, let's just hypothetically. And you're like, what the hell? I got this? What I'm trying to show with this is that how easy deception can be and push anything however it wants to be. Now, I just sent this to a bunch of people, so I hope. Yes, here it is. Awesome. Cool. We're going to get down today. Because I feel like, Deep Astrology gave the best that I can do. And I literally just spent the last hour and a half, even though I filmed it 2 hours ago live on the app and on the website. But I feel like, right now, I'm just trying to give you the essence of what this Saturn retrograde and what this Gemini load up is about before the lunar eclipse, which is next week, and the Mercury retrograde that's coming. And to give you the tools to not waver off divinity and the intuitive divinity that I'm not going to name names because I actually respect this person and I have nothing against this person. I'm actually on the team with this person. But somebody I know on Facebook, she was talking about trusting your intuition about something's off about some things. And I said, oh, well, divinity is your intuition is everything of God. God already told you what it is. And because you're so well about knowing God, whatever doesn't feel right to you, that's okay to question, because if you understand divinity and you understand your intuition and what's divine, you should be able to also understand what feels off and not divine. And some woman then went under there and went, that's the problem with the world, is everybody's following their intuition and they're not using logic. And right there, it was so easy to see that this poor person just doesn't understand that's the problem, actually, is one, carrying that notion, two, carrying the notion that intuition is off when intuition is everything. I mean, the idea that magic, of the true magic and also the soul magic of love and all these things all come from your intuition of divinity. You just had a hunch when you were your first love, your puppy love, this is the person I'm supposed to do it with. It wasn't you didn't logically sit there and look into your 3-ring binder and pull out your Jansport backpack and start writing down notes on why you think, this person might be your first love. You'll write a love letter, but that's going to go off your emotional and more intuitive elements and your love and your heart. You're not going to logically write out a paper and ask your fucking 7th grade fucking science teacher, like, should I go out with this person? Like, no. So I know that this has been bringing up a lot, but I feel like, especially since we're in Gemini now this week, and because the North Node is in Gemini, and I really believe that this hieroglyphic monad is your saving grace, because what is it saving you from? Letting go of the sacred symbol of oneness literally lets you go of everything sacred and everything of oneness. And I feel like without knowing this, like, as John D actually says, like, he who does not understand should either learn or be silent. But as you go into this and understanding this glyph, as you can see right here, Mercury, when made perfect by a sharp, stable point, that the only stable point in life is understanding the point, number one, but it is also understanding stability is through truth. Everything is unstable when there is no truth being sought out and being told around. When you are in truth, your relationship is stable. When you are in truth at your job is stable. When you are in truth with your parents, everything goes right and not chaotic. When you are in truth, everything is stable. When you are not in truth, when you don't know what the point is, you lose the point. You get out of everything and you are lost, and you are not in truth and you are in chaos, because the only thing that in alchemy that it will teach you, which gets you out of chaos, you know, they try to tell you order, right? Order to chaos. Okay. There's natural order, but it's nature and it's art. And it's understanding what nature is, which is natural. Okay. Which is natural energy, natural laws, supernatural. And then the art, which really flows through, I think, the beauty of astrology, the beauty of so much of antiquity and so forth, but the beauty of the hieroglyphic monad is everything to understand all those things in one. And if we're really to think about Mercury here for a second, you know, Mercury is a dual mutable sign. And Gemini is that energy, right? So you have to remember that there would be another Mercury. Now it's a neutral planet, but as it says here, the parent and king of all the planets, which would be the truest form of Mercury, which is the sacred oneness, which only Mercury can do, which is truth, which is also why is Mercury the closest to the sun? It is the messenger of the gods. It is the messenger of God. It is the messenger of truth. So without understanding Mercury, without understanding that, of course, during all this Gemini energy, of course, during this North Node in Gemini, with Mercury, with the sun now activating, and I'm going to go to the chart that shows you why I feel that the 0 degree mark is such an activating point. But also you see the point in here, but it's so funny because Gemini is about the point. It's not about the wide scope. It's about where's the point, which is where's God? Where's that point? What's the point that the king, the sun, is here to give to? Because remember, the sun and the moon are not planets. They're luminaries, okay? So that's why Mercury is the king and the parent of all the other planets, because it is seeding the information to even understand what they are, because it breaks apart from all of them within Mercury's truth. Right? Mercury also has no moons. So you have to remember that there is no emotional element to this. Like, it's not getting emotionally lost like a parent, like, oh, I got to take care of you all. It's much more of like a parental figure of truth that's helping all the other planets understand what is happening with the luminaries, the sun, and why it does go every 88 days around the sun, and it sees all the planets every 88 days. It sees it so much. It's talking to all the planets all the time, whereas no other planet can do that. Not even the Earth as a planet can't do that, right? The Earth takes 365 days to come around the sun, and yes, it will see all the planets once, right? We see the sun conjunct every planet every year, but you have to remember that Mercury is the only one that is doing it all the time. So I think it's very important to understand that this other Mercury would show up very intensely, especially through my work, because I'm just focused on truth all the time, and I'm born with the North Node in Gemini, and my nodal return's coming in this summer into the fall. And, this is what I came here to do on the planet. And it was like so crazy because Mercury's always been my favorite planet, and I have plenty of videos with me saying that it is. And it was just like going through all my old books, and I was just like, fuck, I remember about this. And then I was like, of course, it's like the true essence of Mercury would show up. But it's going to be kind of a little difficult to kind of describe this here for some. Because for some, divinity is too much for them. And that's just truth. And you know what? I love John D. more than ever now because he's hardcore truth. He's hardcore truth. He's not somebody who's going to take, bullshit and fake math and fake numbers and fakeness that are not connected to divinity back in 1564 when he wrote this. It's just like, that is just not intellect. That is intellect that is judging God, and that is the darkness. And actually, if you really think about it, I know that, and a lot of the Capricorns are going to like me for this one, right? It's like, of course, we associate Saturn with Satan, and Capricorn can be, of course, Satan or hell, right? And of course, Aquarius too, because that's Saturn too, and the cold realms. But, the devil is also the trickster. So, but when you look at Mercury, it's like the trickster is when you are not understanding and being able to see how everything connects. And this monad is your saving grace to understand those things. But it also is a way to understand how you can put everything together. It's not seen because it is seen through your intuitive divinity. And I'll add another element to that. Your intuitive divinity that's aligned and able to see. Like, if you're going to be truly in alignment, then you should be able to see alignment. You should be able to see how the alignment comes together and binds together. Because it's the binding force between things that we have to be able to see, which is the fifth element, ether. Which this is what represents ether, which is not seen in the astrology chart or wheel. And it is not seen as a glyph of a planet either. We don't see the fifth element, but doing a horoscope or doing a reading or understanding astrology is the fifth element, is the ether. So if you were to draw that out, it would be part of the oneness of the astrology, but it would be the most sacred symbol of astrology. It would be the most sacred symbol of astrology because it would embody all things in one. And so when I say this to you right now, and this is work that goes back from 1564, the idea that you cannot say that all lives matter and that you want to focus on one planet, so all planets don't matter, one planet matters, Pluto, or even, let's use the outer planets. What, they don't matter? Now that's where this work was not able to go to then because it was 1564. This is where all of us as a collective and the true astrologers and the true astrology community that wants to come together and look at the falsity and find the truth and take this work and move it forward and include how are we going to update and understand this work that has not been updated since 1564. It has not. We've, as astrologers, put out our theories and books and horoscopes, lectures. But that's how you know it's not divine, when you can't say all lives matter, because that means it doesn't connect to all divinity and it separates. And anything that separates, and you got to remember, when you separate from energy that is separating, that's not immoral and that's not bad. It's the energy that chooses to separate and use the idea that sacred of oneness is unfair. Because the truth of the matter is that the universe is not unfair, that divinity is not unfair, that divinity is not unjust, that divinity is all truth, and it is all good, and it is all encompassing, and it can manifest everything in your life, no matter what you are, no matter what soul you are on this planet, because you have to understand the sacredness of all the oneness that we live in. We talk about oneness and spirituality, but yet we have such a problem right now going on where so many of our brothers and sisters in this movement have lost their way, have lost the oneness, have lost it completely, and have lost the natural order, and have lost themselves and calling everything a conspiracy when it's all the stuff that people are listening to God and saying, this doesn't feel right because this doesn't feel godly. This doesn't feel divine. And telling everybody that they're crazy or that they're Trumpers or that they're, deniers. No, that is the projection of you denying divinity. That is the projection of you denying truth. That is the projection of you not in truth and you in South Node and Sag and your little belief system. Or probably, and I'll call it out, especially in the celebrity community and stuff, you probably made a deal with some Freemason or some situation where you made a commitment not to divinity, but to advance your life and give yourself away to the dark, and you can't come away or they'll fucking take you out, and you know it, and you won't be surprised about how many times they've tried that for me, and I've not done it. So, you know what I mean? Like, that's how crazy. You don't know. You know, when it comes to this energy, we're going to find out who's doubling down on going against divinity. Who's doubling down on not bringing up God? Who's doubling down on following this complete sellout? I love how somebody said that. Sellout on propaganda. Because Jupiter, Neptune, and Pisces with Uranus and Taurus, I've shown you all last fucking week. Propaganda to the highest accord, whether it's through Nazi, whether it's through the Democrats in 1855 and 1856, whether it's, I can go on for a long time. Okay? So I know that was a lot that was said there, but to bring us back to this work, like, this is the encompassment of all the planets back in 1564. Now we have other planets. We have Chiron, and we have, even farther out planets and exoplanets, but we mainly have Aries now that we have to include in Pluto, Uranus, and of course Neptune. So, I think it's very important for us to realize, like, I don't know what that glyph would be yet, but I haven't even spent 1 minute trying to do that glyph. And maybe it doesn't take a glyph, but just a collective understanding and an interpretation of that is what I'm trying to do here in this work that I do. So for those that don't understand this and that say that I'm dark or mean or some sort of weird thing, or that I'm crazy, or that I'm some crazy Trump person, which I don't believe that Trump people are crazy. I'm going to say it right now because that's truth. And that's truth through these people who say that don't have experience with people who like Donald Trump. They don't understand I can understand why somebody likes Biden. I can understand why somebody goes very liberal. I am willing to talk to them about it. I am willing to listen to what they have to say. I think every Trump person actually does, which is the irony of it all. Is like, we just sit here and listen, and we sit here and go, well, we're not defined by one man. We're defined by who we are, number one. So we have been claimed now by another side as the same way the Jews were claimed by Nazis. You're a Trumper. No more will, you all need to realize, no more accepting that from anybody. You need to turn around, and anybody that calls you a Trumper, you are an authoritarian, because that's what it is. And you are not coming from the divine. You are not coming from the divine. You are not coming from truth. You are not willing to go look at any of this stuff. You know, there's a huge amount of people, we're talking 100 million people or more, and even people around the world, that loved what Trump stood for. But that doesn't mean that we are Trumpers. That doesn't mean that we think he is the Holy Sacrament. We do not believe that he is God. But the ideas that came about from a Gemini, that ironically enough is the lunar eclipse energy that is coming next week with the nodes, who ironically enough is a Sun Uranian Gemini, who brought ideas to the masses and to the people, about freedom, about liberty, and more importantly, about why don't we all win in life? Isn't that the way that God works? So, God's all about all of us winning. And the ideas that are being thrown out in the world today that are not divine are that no, not everybody can win. And we need to do this. And I understand that you could give a fuck about presidents. We're using an example now that even, let's say that you don't care about a president, Joy Love, if you talk about divinity or you talk about questioning stuff that is going on in the world right now, you are labeled that. That's what I'm trying to get at. So again, here's another way of even people that are getting lost when they're on the right side of things and being like, well, trying to deny, it's not about a president or whatever. It's the fact that you are being labeled from the ideas you speak about God, about divinity, about things that makes common sense, the things that are intuitively right here in truth, that you are automatically labeled as that. So any idea now that goes against an authoritarian dictator energy and fascist is labeled that, or conspiracy theorist, right? So it's like, which all of it is encompassing in the divine, and people listening to their intuition and listening to God and seeing what doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense seeing how kids are treated in this world. It doesn't make sense from God's point of view. No way. We all feel that one. Oh, but you're a crazy conspiracy theorist. There's nothing bad going on with that. We're watching it with children every day. We see kids having, I always say, Craig and I are like, thank God we were lucky enough to go to school when we were kids in the 80s, 90s, and I graduated in 2002 high school, and I didn't have to go through what we go through today. And I think a lot of us as older people, and I want to be a parent really bad, and it's just like, I look at the kids today and I just couldn't imagine having to go through this crazy bullshit that they have to go through right now, and how traumatizing that would be, let alone the proof in the pudding of all the creepiness that has been going on with children and what people do to children. And the fact that you can't even talk about that publicly, as if, you're a conspiracy theorist. That's not true. What are you talking about? There is, I don't know, 2 to 3 stories a week in all the news about them catching people doing that all the time for the last 4 years plus. Like, this is where this truth is so important in this moment of us coming into Gemini, and what the truth is going to win. And I want to be here for people as a Leo, and as Leo rising and a North Node in Gemini that I am, to not waver and not fall for this propaganda that is going to try and make it look like everything's fine and that all you conspiracy people were wrong the whole time and all that, because that's what's coming out. That's what's coming. And they're doing it to get people to feel normal and drop the next radical, crazy scenario on people, which is financial crisis, right? Because it makes no sense. And how much money and all that stuff, including, look at what they've done with gas. Look at what, and that's Jupiter. Last time Jupiter was in Pisces, Exxon oil spill. Like, there is so much. And that was also to get the whole environmental thing shifted while at the same time do a bunch of other things. Okay. Like, we all need to be prepared to not waver on listening to the divine. And whatever that divine message is, you know within yourself. There is no one place that, like a YouTube channel or a radio network or whatever, that has that truth. That truth is through you and God. Okay? That truth is through you and God. And a lot of us are getting the same message because we're all listening to God, and God is speaking a very, very, very clear message to a lot of people that are very in tune. And we all need to not feel, well, number one, we're not allowed to be victimized anymore, or more importantly, be used as, looked at as we're vicious or that we are crazy, because we're not. That's a projection. And that's a projection on us who are listening to divinity. That's not who we are. And we all know, because we're not afraid of death. We're not afraid. We know that listening to the divine and listening to the highest orders of the universe is not only the most amazing gifts that come into our life, but is our saving grace whenever we do end this earth and we do end this life, that we know we are going to the right place, that honestly is the place that is of the divine, that is of God, because we don't waver off that. We don't get lost in trying to give approval to what people and crazy ideas of society that have no connection to any divine mathematics, no divinity at all, and also at the same time want you to experiment and you be the experiment over something that we already know makes no sense, zero logic, no logic at all, because chaos came from these crazy ideas. Chaos came from these stories. Chaos was what they also love to talk about and are afraid of. Well, we are not afraid of chaos because we are not within chaos. And all of us, we all know that, have been listening to the divine, have been laughing at the people that are so afraid because they are stuck in chaos, because they are believing a false light. They are literally living in a false light. So what I want to show you with this, and why it's so important, and how to be able to see the truth, okay? We're going to use astrology. We're not going to use, this is not like David Palmer's way of doing it. No, this is the divine's way. I'm using John D. I'm using the hieroglyphic monad as an example. There's many other ways, but I'm going to use this one because I'm an astrologer, and I think that this is an amazing way for you to understand what real truth is compared to false truth. Because what other way is there going to be? And you know what? This book especially, it's so beautiful, the sacred symbol of oneness. It literally screams about, not even screams, but it just echoes love, and it echoes source, and it echoes spirit, and it echoes the highest accord from the divine. And I think there's nothing greater than that in the whole entire world. That's the greatest, most beautiful thing in the world. So we'll just kind of go into a couple little quick parts here. So, one, here we see the sun and the moon resting on the rectangular cross. So when you see this as the symbol of the Mercury that is not seen, but because I described earlier about how Mercury, of course, or let's put it this way, the essence, the fifth element, the ether, the spirit, will never be seen. That's why scientists are so crazy to think that they can see something by smashing atoms together in a, Higgs collider, when it's happening right in front of them. Like God's happening the whole time in front of them, and they're not going to be able to actually see God unless they drew it out and understood that it's not something that is seen in the physical, unless all the pieces come together, and then it's the essence of understanding it. So you have the sun and the moon, which make the antenna of Mercury, right? So it's and then you have the four quadrants of what you actually see with the seasons. And then, of course, I'll go into why the Aries glyph is down there. So you have the sun. Oh, yeah, here we go. You have Luna, right? And then you have the sun, the elements. And right here, and this is all in Latin, but this is where the ether, this is where the spark, this is the most beautiful element. Because if you look at this and why the zodiacal division of Aries used by astronomers is quite well known to everyone. It is also well known that this is the place in the heavens where the fiery triplicity begins. Thus, we shall add the astronomical sign of Aries in the practice of this monad to signify that the aid of fire is required. The start of astrology is Aries. The start is cardinal fire. It's strong. Bang. If you want to use science, Big Bang Theory, bang. Right? You wake up in the morning and your eyes wake up, boom, in your head. That's Aries, right? Boom. There's a force of fire that wakes you up, right? Literally. The elements of the sun and the moon of this monad, in which the Denarian symmetry is strong, want to be separated, and this is done with the aid of fire. So how things not only come together, but also how they all work into their uniqueness too. The mystical sign of Aries consisting of two half circles joined together as a common point. So right, so when you see the half circles and they come together, right? So it looks like it looks like a nice butt too. Or it looks like a bird too. There's a lot of different ways to look at it. But it is fittingly signified by the basically the equinoxes. That even if you understand, okay, here's the rise of the sun for the 6 months, and then the sun flipped on the other side of the, right, would be that. So with Aries, you're getting the equinoxes of Libra on the other side, but you're also getting, if you were to turn that around, you'd get a full circle as the sun, and the sun is exalted in Aries, and the point in the middle is the point of soul, which is soul, literally SOL, in the old Latin word for sun, but it also is of the soul, which is the sun in your chart, the soul itself. So Aries is also Mars, which if you were to look at it, right? So Mars, we always see it as the sun, but with a line up and then a triangle, right? It's no. You look into some of the ancient symbolism of Mars, and you're going to see that it was just drawn out like this, and I'll draw it myself, but, it would have been like that. That's such a horrible aspect of it, but, that would have been like Mars right there, right? So because it's Aries and it's the sun's exalted there, right? So like that's where you get Mars in there. So and of course, the purest magical spirit can manage the work of all vivification in the place of the moon. By his spiritual virtue, he may, when alone with us in the middle of a natural day, speak to us hieroglyphically without words. He will introduce those 4 geomagnetic figures, from impress them into the very pure and simple earth prepared for us, or instead that other symbol. So we have these 4 elements too, and we have to understand the planets that are representing the 4 different elements in there too. Don't the hieroglyphs of the sun and Aries combine to make the mystical symbol of Mars? Doesn't the magistry of the elements intervene? And I asked, don't the sun and the fully expressed elements make the sign of Venus too? So you see Venus in there, you see Jupiter, you see Saturn, and so forth. I want you all to take a look at this for 1 second and try and decipher this. I'm going to go take a restroom break. I'll be right back. Right back. All right, we are back now. So, you know what I could do here? I could actually do this, so that you can all see me. So, what's interesting about this is there's 7 planets, okay? But what makes this really interesting to me is the understanding of this 8th one. Now, of course, this is coming from the old days, okay? Which you see the hieroglyphic monad in there. Because combined in all, 8 also is infinity. That the infinity symbol of 8 is also within the planets through the understanding of something that is infinite, but yet not seen. Does that make sense? So by seeing physically all 7 planets, you understand the 8th planet of the hieroglyphic monad, of how they all come together. But it is not seen because it is what you can see, and then understanding of what is seen in the divinity that is not seen. This is the reason why science can't handle this shit. Like, because they don't understand divinity. They cannot put trust in something that fully cannot be all seen, because they are stuck in only the physical. They're only stuck in one element, really. They're not emotional. They're not fiery. Let's be honest with you about that one. They're very air, which can be corruptible, and earth. They just want to physically see it and understand it, and that's it. You know, some of them have passion, maybe to bring some of it out, but passion without emotion, and passion without emotion, and more importantly, without spirit of the ether, So when I watch Neil deGrasse Tyson talk, I just literally laugh. I'm like, that guy just has zero spirit. Like he doesn't believe in spirit. He doesn't believe in anything that you can't see. He tries to put down astrology constantly 24/7. And they try to say that this guy's all about science and truth and astrotheology, but especially more just like astronomy and astrophysics. Like this guy knows zero. And astrophysics keeps changing constantly their idea of cosmology. Like cosmology just keeps changing and keeps changing and keeps changing. The only constant in the world is the cosmology of the universe and the natural order, which we lived in as humans for a long time. And when that was taken from us, and that was used in inquisitions, and that was used to also, including John Dee was using math like this when he was young and put in jail. He ended up being the astrologer to Queen Elizabeth I. But you have to realize that we are in a world right now that we literally, the chaos is because there is nobody that is using anything from divinity. And even right now, the churches that we are surrounded by that preach the Lord's word or preach God or Jesus have all signed up for this non-divinity way. Like, so, you know, even Jesus, like if you think about it, like does Jesus talk about like don't trust anybody that calls himself the Father, but like you go to the church and they say call me Father? Or does Jesus or anything in the Bible talk about, you know, going to, you know, having a pope? Is it pope in the Bible? No. Same thing with astrology, right? It's like these people that are in astrology are not using, number one, all the tools that are available to them from the ancients. And number two, only wanting to look at it from their point of view that's backing up a propaganda message for some reason. I don't know what that reason is. I mean, that would be delusion if that's too simple. I think a lot of it is that they don't believe in God and divinity, and that's what takes you down the astrological hole of evil, because they feel that there is evil with astrology, and it is those that do not connect it to God and put God first and don't realize that there is a sacred oneness out there, and that is the divinity, and that is God, and that if you don't use that with astrology, then you are not, then that's where I think that why you see in the Bible and stuff that astrology and certain things are not good, because you are not using divinity, you're not using God, and you're not using your intuitive center from that, and you're not realizing that astrology and the interpretations of astrology and the planets and the stars and all the motions of it all is all God speaking, and intuitively understanding what God's speaking and being able to see what is not seen, but by seeing the things that are seen. So I'll finish with this. So here's a couple last things, right? So it's like, you can take the cross for the elements, right? But last part of this, of the monad real quick here. Like, so Venus is in here, of course, and Mars. And the first two signs of the zodiac are that, right? So you have the masculine and the feminine. So you just want to take the first two for masculine and feminine, right? Aries, Taurus. So where is the exaltation of the luminaries? Well, the sun's exalted in Aries and the moon's exalted in Taurus. So if you look at the sun and the moon, right? Like the exaltation of the moon is Taurus. So it's connected with the masculine and it's above it, but it's also in it. Does that make sense? And then there's the sun, which is exalted in Aries of the masculine, right? And it's Mars and Venus too, right? So Adam and Eve in many ways, or however you want to look at it, or but the sun, having suffered from eclipses of its light, so they talk. He goes way deep into all this, but the house of Taurus, and the Taurus is the exaltation of the moon, is common knowledge, which has been handed down from the first age of man among the Maximus of the astronomers. This mystery can only be understood by those who have become complete masters of the mysteries. So you cannot know truth unless you have mastered the mysteries, okay? And you know it. It's not about so much of maybe like the study, or I'm going to be honest, I'm not, and if you went to Kepler College for astrology, whatever, like, you know, that's cool, and you get it, then we're cool. But most of the astrologers I know that went to Kepler College and do this shit and praise that shit, like, don't, like, they're all on that other team of like following this bullshit out there and not saying divinity, and I've never heard them talk about God. So, like, to master the mysteries, you have to, it's not only just learning it, it's living the magic of the mysteries and mastering it and what you do with your life. Like, you know, like, I mean, let's be real. Like, if you really are using this beautiful, beautiful, amazing divination that is from the divine to connect with God more, you should be in the most amazing life of your life. I could say that I've been using it for so long that my life just keeps advancing and advancing and advancing and just more and more and more and more and more constantly. I don't see those other astrologers doing that. I don't see the advancement. I don't see them care about people. I don't see them show up. I don't see them give them new ways. I don't see them innovating. I don't see them thriving. I don't see them doing anything except sitting in their same place with their really weird fucking energy that looks like they're a hobbit and fucking talking crap and just reposting everything that Joe Biden fucking says and just saying that that's astrology. And wanting their fellow brothers and sisters in the community that they're supposed to be, I guess, what? Their followers or their people that follow them, lose their rights, lose all their stuff, and not give any astrological. I have not seen any interpretation yet. Like real, like, okay, maybe on a podcast, it may be like, oh yeah, Jupiter Aquarius is gonna be good for the shot. Okay. Like, I need a lot more than that, right? Because I've been able to call out, as you all know, for a long time, all this was going to happen years prior, and warn, and what, not even warn, just make people aware so they live and thrive through a period where people are going to try and make them not thrive. And the dark is trying to do its craziest shit. And truth is not the truth that's out there in the world. And I called it. I called it all out for a long time, and I'm still calling it all out. So, like, they didn't do that. And then now they're trying to say, like, they give, like, very simple things, like Jupiter Aquarius. Like, really? They haven't mastered this shit. They're not going to sit with you in a horoscope for the week and just go, like, let's take a look at this and how this is connected to this week. And how this is the most important thing. Because they don't practice, they're not even good at horoscopes. They suck. They suck. They don't even know how to do them. They don't even know how to do them. And I don't feel bad saying that because I'm not being mean or I'm not being negative. I'm just spitting out what is divine truth because they're not connected to divinity. They won't even speak about divinity. You can see when they do their shit, they can't even say God. They're afraid of God. They're afraid of the divinity. They're afraid of what their peers are going to think. Oh my gosh, what is everybody going to think at Kepler College? Oh my gosh, what is everybody going to think on the Astrology podcast? Oh my God, who gives a flying fuck? Do you think Nostradamus cared? All the great astrologers didn't care what anybody else thought, and including the kings and the queens. Like even John Dee at the very end almost was gonna like be banished and probably hung and killed. Even Nostradamus had to deal with crazy shit and went through a plague and so forth and made massive predictions. So the idea, and also if you want to take this general astrology community right now, and anybody trying to say that they're in truth or step out of the astrology community in the government or wherever, they're all saying the same thing in a different way. They're saying that nobody should be allowed to predict things from divine in the astrology community. That's what they're saying is like, we shouldn't do predictions anymore because they all suck. in the normal community of life outside of astrology, it's like nobody is allowed to interject any other alternative theory about what is going on in the world, only from what the government is saying. Same shit. Same shit. So this is why this is so important right now, more than ever, because now you have to be able to, this is the messenger of God coming down to give us the truth, and this is the king, the son, demanding the truth that God is delivering, that we all already knew. The mind blows we already know, right? Like we already see it. Of course, I think we'll be mind blown more about what the truth really is. Like, I can't believe these people were doing that much of dark shit. And you'd be surprised even by people in the spiritual community who are pushing this way, who have done some really dark stuff. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I know one of them that I'm not going to be that person, but I know their dark secrets. Like, it's bad, and they are very big. They don't do astrology, but they ended up on an astrology channel in the last month, and I couldn't believe it. But they're dark. And they also try to pressure people into darkness, and they also try to pressure people into black magic and shit. But anyway, what's important to know is the element cross too. That the cross, but it's perfect cross. It's not elongated. But it can become two V's in Greek numbers, right? Which is 5, which fifth element, fifth. If you look at the numerology, Mercury's the 5th number because it's in between the 9 numbers and you can see both sides. But also it's broken down into 10 because it's an X. And so that's the X factor, and that's the understanding. If you really understand the number system, the 1 to 5 to 10 to 100, like this is what is true math. Okay. You also can make them L's, and I've talked about this like real basic before, but that every angel ends in L, or in so many languages, L is more like of a masculine. Right. And it also can, the L is in La, right? Like La Nina, or there is a feminine too. So it's a masculine and a feminine, the L. But also that I think is it's also the twin symbols of another letter of the Latin alphabet is revealed. One of them is upright, the other one is upside down and backwards. This letter from the ancient custom of the Latin has been used to represent 50. That's a 50. Looks like, right? So, so we're just going to go straight to it. Like, this is another point on how the Christian symbol of the cross is incorrect, because it's not equal. Right. And it's not revealing the separation. You can barely see there, but in the middle is the 5th element of the heart that we see in the cross, which they put Jesus over. Right. But like the understanding of it though, too, is like you have to be able to understand how things are broken apart and brought back together in divinity, and that they should always work. Right. And that when you take it backwards too, you have to be able to take anything forward and anything backwards. And he does a very good way of showing what that is. And I'm just kind of fast forwarding to understand how this is how you see how things come together in existence and not. So like you can like look at the sun right here, moon, like existing before the elements. So the sun and the moon obviously showed up before the elements, right? Of earth, air, wind, water, right? Like fire, air, earth and water. Then that's the mortal Adam, male and female. And then there's the mortification, wrapped up in shadow, born in a stable. Okay. Then the cross is the ordering of the elements. So there's that natural order of the seasons too. And all 4 elements. That every season, right, is bringing you into a new element, right? So it's like kind of interesting because it's like you get the element of fire in spring. You get the element of water in summer. You get the element of air in fall. And you get the element of earth in winter. So it's the ordering, but it's the consummation of the elemental genealogy, and it's the cross. The Aries symbol is existing after the elements, because that's what, after we physically create and we see the Aries symbol in the constellations, right? And we have to be like on an earth in a physical body to be able to see that. Okay? So then you look at it flip side, and what do you get? You get conceived by his own influence, powerful seed, the creation of matter, earthly marriage, and then the beginning, suffering and burial, the virtue of denari, purification of the elements, martyrdom on the cross, right? The middle, and then rising again by his own virtue, glorious and triumphant, transformation, divine marriage, and then the end. And that's Aries, right? So, because it's like we start and we begin there, and you get the beginning and you get the end. So the beginning is the top and the bottom is the end too. So you get that in both forms. Like what he's trying to show is you have to be able to see how everything in the universe needs to make sense. If it doesn't make sense, then it's not from the divine. If it literally does not have all the pieces that make sense. So when you start going crazy about being afraid of this stupid fucking story that they keep telling, because none of it makes sense, then it's not of the divine, and you shouldn't be afraid of it, because if you're in the divine, you'll be fine. Like, they can't break down any of this stuff to you. They can't connect it all. Okay? They can't connect it all. So even when you start, I mean, he's such a, I mean, this is 1564. But here we go. And I just want to use this because this is what it is. Masculine, feminine, sun, moon, but also in their natural exalted positions. You've got Venus. You've got everything that you need. Here's the moon, right? You've got the sun with the point in the middle of the soul. You've got the cross, but that is creating Mercury. So now you just saw Mercury. Then you see Venus. You don't need to use the moon, but you've got Venus right here. Right? So you got Venus right here. You got Mars, because you've got Mars and then you got the Aries symbol that fills it out right there. Okay? Really, if you take the symbol of Aries for a second, right? And then you take like the look of Mars is like this. It's one hump. They're getting rid of the equal part. Okay, they're getting they if you actually really want to go deep into it, it's trying to make only masculine energy like just dominant only, but in actually taking away the power of the beauty of the equal of what gives the Aries its power, which is the understanding that it's an equal part to another side, that it's not just singular. That and that's the ego. So like this Mars is incorrect, and it's also kind of crazy because it's like they changed the symbol to look like a fucking penis, right? When really they're not looking deep enough. I'm gonna get really fucking like if you have kids around, but like, like if you were like look at a penis, like if you actually think about it, it would actually be more rounded like that, right? And like the shit comes out of that, right? So like they even like, that's what I'm saying is how you can see the false light everywhere. Okay. Like the false is like trying to fucking change everything. This is probably why a lot of people at the same time have been going a little bit crazy when it comes to this whole idea of like, why am I seeing things that make me feel like I'm an alternate universe? It's because they're shifting slowly so many things that are not natural. Okay. Yes. The honey that comes from the bee. But actually I think that comes from the feminine, but we'll use that as like for the masculine, the whale that's, I don't know, you know what I mean? But, like so anyway, like, well, let's erase that real quick, you know what I mean? Like, but like, that's some good depiction of how it's like they're not even using the true shit, okay? And then now this is where it gets most interesting to me, of course, and then I'll bring this to a little bit bigger. There we go. So if I do the blue, so then once we're past Mars, right, what do you get to? You get Jupiter, which you get Jupiter right here in blue. So you would have to like turn that around, but like, because, Jupiter is right like this. So you can see, and I'll add black to make it like Jupiter, right? And then Saturn. I know that some people are like, why are you doing this again? I haven't really like done too much about this, like really just sat here with y'all and did it because we're about to show you in the astrology why you need to know this because of all the mercurial stuff going on. So then there's Saturn. So everything is embodied in here and everything logically I'll put it this way, everything divinely makes sense of the divine intelligence, the divine order. And it all comes together to a point. Like we even can look at an astrology chart and see that it's the sun with a dot in the middle, right? The point. And so Mercury is the father and it is the king of all the planets. Of the planets. Because if it's able to embody all of that, but it would not be Mercury. It would be the essence of the fifth element of Mercury, the spirit, which is the hieroglyphic monad from that time period, because it's embodying the whole entire understanding of astrology in one glyph. That's how interconnected astrology is. And the divine works. So if the divine works, you should be able to interchange in every way and it all makes sense. When your relationship doesn't do that, what are you doing? When your job's not doing that, what are you doing? When you're living in a world and the world doesn't make sense, why are you following it and why are you giving into it and why are you believing into the crazy fucking media that is trying to have you go a different direction? You are going against even what they say in the Bible, even what Jesus did and warned you. Jesus warned you. Like not to follow, but to trust the divine, to trust God, to listen to only God, or I guess anybody and any of your brothers and sisters that are on the same tip that can understand the same essence, right? Because anybody with a soul, with a true divine soul that is listening to divinity, is going to go, not question divinity, but is going to question everything with you of like, yeah, that's not fucking divine. What the fuck is that? Because we are all a collective that is so aligned with God. And so when all this stuff is coming out and all these people are out here trying to belittle us, all these people are out here trying to seem that we're crazy, all these people are coming out trying to say that we don't make any sense, we have all of the divine power behind us of true understanding. We do not judge God because we do not have a conviction against God. We do not try and become skeptics, which means you are not within the Lord. You are not within the divine because you are skeptical. If you're skeptical, you're not in it. If you're skeptical about your love and your relationship, you're not in the relationship. You're actually out of it. You're not in it. You're not taking a moment to, think, oh, I'm just like processing this for a second. No, you're not in it. You're not in love. You're not making love. You're not doing any of that shit. You're not doing any of that. You're fucking in skepticism. You're not in the Lord. You're not in the divine. You have separated yourself and you're debating on whether you're going to bind back, because what all this is a binding force of oneness that you cannot see, but yes, you can see. You can see it, but you must see it from the divine mind. Now, I'll save that to photos. That was kind of cool. And the reason why 8 comes up, this drawing was so crazy about the horizon of eternity. This is pretty crazy shit. But we're going to finish with this, and I'm going to just go in a couple charts and we'll be done. So here you have the elements, right? So you start at earth, water, air, fire. Now that's the traditional way of how the elements work in alchemy and stuff like that. But in astrology, it's different, okay? But it also gives you the understanding of the numbers, right? So that's why I was bringing up 1, 10, 100, 1,000. But what you also get too is like how you jump up to the beginning to the top, 7, right? 7 is the lucky number. It's the spiritual number, right? So that's where we get that. But it's 8 that is the understanding of how it all comes together, right? And how that 7 crosses from consummation in the horizon of time into the metamorphosis of the understanding of the universe, which is the horizon of eternity that gets you to that space, okay? Because once you get through fire, then the 5th element, right, is the ether that is also connected on this quadrant and of understanding quadrant energy of the 1, 2, 3, 4, which is also a bridge between time, consummation, and metamorphosis. But so that connects with the oneness is 5. And that 1 connects to the 8 up here, which gets you to there. And this 5 connects to the 4 elements that bridge together to create the 5th, right? To the horizon of eternity. But what's even more interesting to me is like even the colors, right? So 1 is black, the body. And this is the realm of the body, the spirit, and the soul. Now, those are the 3 wise men, okay, that went and found Jesus. They were the embodiment of looking to find the body, the spirit, and the soul of Jesus. And if you notice here, it's interesting. The spirit and the soul, there's a 2 and a 2 and a 3. And there's this 1 in the body. It's missing that 4th element here, which I guess would just go into a quantum nature. But what's kind of crazy here is like when you see this, let me pull this out. When you see this, thus the world was created out here, okay? Then you have to, and here you can see the Aries, right? Like how that Aries energy. But there's the super celestial, there's the celestial, and then there's the terrestrial, right? So you have this world that's created. There's a terrestrial, there's a super celestial, the embodiment earlier in the monad of the sun and the moon, the celestial understanding of it, which would be the understanding of the planets and so forth. And then you get the terrestrial, which is the cross that brings it all together, right? But that's not really the start. Like, it all comes from the horizon of eternity, which is the divine, that comes down through the 8 and brings you all the way down to 1. But it's the 5th element that if you don't understand that, you don't get to anywhere. Like, that's in between a lot of that stuff. And also 8 is a number that is not seen in the planets from the old school way. There's 7 planets, but there's an 8th understanding of how it all comes together. Words cannot express the many things that can be drawn forth from these diagrams if they are deeply contemplated. I've deeply been contemplating this one for a long time. We assert the reasoning with our ancestors extolled is not as complete and exact as the one we will now make known. So that's what I'm saying is so important, that the astrology community and astrologers need to come together and take this work and bring it known now, because now John D is our ancestor as an astrologer, and redefine and take from this work and build upon it. And that's what we are all doing in the truth right now, and why we feel like we're not having the weight that we need to feel, because there's not enough people. And especially if we're going to use astrology, because it is the divinity that understands so much. Even if you look at the Rosicrucians movement, they're talking about the age of Aquarius in there, and they're talking about, celestial bodies and the celestial movement. You go into, even the Bible and the celestial energies, and you go into the zodiacs in there, like everything is connected to astrology. And so that is where we have to go. And I'm just looking around and going, what the fuck? What the fuck? Because it's the people actually that they think are the conspiracy theorists right now, or they're calling the Trumpers, or they're calling the ones that don't believe in science, or that don't follow the guidelines of CDC. Although now it's the people who wear the mask, even though they've been doubly shot up, because they don't want to look like a non-truth, or they don't want to look like a truther, which I think is funny. Like, it's like they're calling us truthers as if that's bad. Well, you're just like a truth movement person. What? You don't think you don't want to be part of the movement of truth? Like, really? But after this monad will be wholly and fully physical restored. That indeed it is the most united monus that the Magi proclaim as oneness. So this comes from all the work of the Magi's and all the time of all that. That this is a symbol that goes back that far. That also, was pieces of a puzzle that divinely came together. And I think that he ends it the best, although I don't think they show it here. That's kind of crazy that they don't. Oh, yeah, they do. And I did read this, but I think last week. But just remember, through this period and through this week now, remember this. Like, thou art worthy, O Lord, to receive the glory and the honor and the power, for thou hast created all things. Remember this, that the divine has created all things. Because of thy will, they are and have been created. Because of God's will, not your free will. Okay? Amen, says the fourth letter, which the fourth letter in Latin is D, which is John D. It's like a joke, showing how everything is connected. But to whom God gave the will and ability to record this divine mystery, he wrote that January 25th or 13th, and he finished on the 25th in 1564. But this is what you need to understand is there's the L, right? And the point is in the middle with the L. Intellect judges truth. Contact at a point. So there's a point here, but there's also a point there. The eye of the vulgar will here be obscured and most distrustful, because when you distrust divinity, you distrust your knowing from the divine, your truth from the divine, you question the divine, you're judging truth. So intellect is a dangerous place. So when people are like, I'm very intellectual, or I have all the intellect, and all these people who say they have all this knowledge and they have all this intellectual thing, and they are not using divinity, they're judging truth when truth is not judged. Because truth is from divine. So anybody that's judging the divine was not created. You were created by the divine. So how can you judge the divine? That's what Satan does. That's what the dark does. And that's why it's distrustful. It should be obscured out of here. And it is vulgar. And we are living in a planet right now with vulgarity against people who are listening to the divine, obscured because we are listening to the divine, and we are the ones that are being looked at as we are distrustful. We're not wearing our mask. We're not doing this because they're judging our divine truth. And you really think that they're going to go to a good place, and you really think they're going to win? You really think they're going to win? No. The propaganda is that the shot's saving the world, when the truth of the divinity is saving the world. And it is not through the shot. It is through so many people not following what the divine is telling us not to follow. That's the propaganda. That people are believing that it's some magic trick that's false magic, that it's some science crazy trick that has no point because it's coming from chaos, and it judges the divine and it doesn't even speak of the divine. You haven't heard one person on the news even say if this shot really was the thing that saved the world, right? They haven't said thank God. They haven't said that this was divine. They haven't said that this comes from the divine. No, it actually is the first time in life that we are messing around with human beings in such a crazy way with an experiment that does everything but be natural. There's no natural about it at all. It is synthetic. It is artificial intelligence that is here to judge the truth, the divine that created everything, that created the people that made the artificial intelligence. Really? You're really going to go with that? I think all these graphs and all this stuff, I don't even know if they're, who knows? I'm just like giving you a hypothesis, or just like let's just be like, I don't know. Let's just throw it out there and see, like, interesting question. Like, what if it's a computer system? What if it is some weird AI intelligence throwing out all these graphs? Nobody even knows really who it is. And it's just automatically sending on email to the news networks and all that stuff, and they're reporting it. And there's a whole entire computer running this whole entire thing. And all the people just are not in divinity. And that's how the dark wins, right? Like, there actually probably is no human being that is running this dark show, that they are being all tricked by crazy intelligence that judges the truth and judges all the things, and they don't even know where the information is coming from. You know what I mean? Like that's the craziest part. So to get to the chart stuff here, this truth with the sun coming into Gemini is so important. It's probably one of the most important things that we could look at, because it is so important, because we do have Mercury here in its home sign. It is the Lord of this house, and the sun's here with the North Node. Now, the last time the sun came into Gemini with a North Node, or with a node, was, and especially at these positions, was 2012. 2012 is connected to everything. 2012 is connected to the change of this world. Whether you want to like it or not, it is. 2012 is real. And it was the awakening, and it's on the galactic plane, and it is the awakening of the highest form of divinity and truth. That the lie, the big lie, is that this world is filled with chaos and darkness. The truth is that it is filled with love and divinity, and there are so many of us that are holding that, and that's what light work is that we are holding that, and we are holding that truth, and we are even being told that we're crazy. We're being told that we are crazy and all wild and all weird. When we are doing anything but that, we are in our sovereignty of God. We are protected by that, and we are not crazy, and we have so much to show for it. We have so much that God is giving us to show, which is listening to the divine, listening to our inner, listening to our hearts, listening to love, listening to the insanity that you can't go hug somebody, the insanity that you can't love somebody. I can't believe they just told people in England, like, yeah, you can go have sex again. Like, are you fucking kidding me? You can't go make love to your wife or to, you know what I mean? Like, this is fucking crazy. That you can't go see your kids or your grandkids, that you can't send them to a school, that you can't have them go hang out with their friends. These are all the darkest of the dark working. This is not divinity. This is not natural. This is not making any sense to the way we were built as humans. Putting a mask over, were we born with a mask on our face? No. 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 We were not born with that. If God intended for us to have a filtration system on our face, it would have grown. That's why you have hairs and silica in your nose. That's why you have tonsils that are supposed to get infected and get rid of whatever it is naturally. Like, but of course, they're going to spit all these crazy, stupid numbers that make no sense. 0 sense, no sense, and no point. Because what's the point? That's what we're going to figure out here in this Gemini period, is what's the point to all this? And it's connected deeply to January 12th of 2020. The darkest of the dark took over Mercury and hid the truth to people, because Saturn and Pluto met with Mercury and the Sun on January 12th of 2020. And this period of Gemini, with the eclipses coming up, the North Node here, Mercury going to retrograde here is a blessing. It's a blessing to see through this deception, as it's going to square Neptune this week, right? So Neptune here at 22 degrees, here's Mercury in square. And we're going to see this 3 times. We're going to get the Trinity. At the same token, we are going to see, when Mercury is retrograde, we are going to see another Cassini moment but this one's with an eclipse, and this one's with the king and the queen that are with the node, the North Node, towards our destiny. And you have to remember, in heaven, right, sure, if you use tropical astrology and you use the old depictions of heaven, of course, it starts from Aries to Libra, and it's the upper half of the zodiac, right, the beginning of the zodiac, and that's also where the sun is at its peak of daylight, right? So in the tropical northern part of the hemisphere. But you have to remember, though, that astrologically speaking, from the zodiac positions, you have Taurus, you have Gemini, and you have Cancer. So you have the 3 closest entities of celestial bodies next to the sun. You have Venus, Taurus, and the ruler of that. You have Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, that's the closest to the sun, that actually is the one that is giving the message, or in many ways is the Son of God, in many ways, if you want to look at it that way. And then you have the truth bringer, and then you have the moon, which is the next closest thing to technically Venus, right? Because if you want to look at it that way, but also it's the closest to Earth, and also it is a luminary that is reflecting the light of the sun. That is where heaven is. So it's from the Pleiades, come from Taurus into Gemini, and then we have the star Sirius that the ancients pointed to in Cancer. And that's why this is the part of the zodiac, and I go into Purgatory of Dante's stars and the ladder of contemplation that is in Gemini, that you have to not contemplate divinity. You jump over the ladder of contemplation to come into the higher spheres. And to understand paradise and to go to paradise, you must understand the spheres, and you must understand the divinity and how the divinity works. So it's a lot more than just just trusting the divine, right? Just blindly. You're never blindly trusting the divine because you're able to see the divine, because you're able to understand the mastery of the divine, and you can see the mastery of the divine everywhere. So the fact that we're seeing now the sun come into Gemini right here with activating this north node. Oh, welcome to Gemini's house, sir. I'm here to serve you. Where's the queen? Oh, we're doing she's opposite. She's going to be in Sag next week with the south node, where she likes it and I like the north node. So we're going to be in opposition here, but she's going to meet up with me in 2 weeks prior to that or after that. And we're going to get the truth from Mercury. We're going to meet exactly with Mercury. And we're going to get the truth from Mercury. We're going to get the truth. And it's going to be delivered to the whole zodiac, because that's what Mercury does. Mercury delivers it to all of the planets. And Mercury is embodied of all the planets. That the truth is going to be spread to all the planets. And the truth is being spread to all of us already. And that's what we need to realize, is that it might not be seen the same way. So if we want to take the notion real quick, I'll talk on camera for this one. So if we want to take the notion real quick of like, okay, so we use the astrology, we use the monad to understand how we can see everything, but then that divinity is something that we can see, but we also don't see because we can see, but we feel it, right? We don't see it. Well, the truth at the same time, right, is going to be something that we see, but then also at the same time, we just have to, you already are in the truth. Like the expectation of like it being like blown up and, you know, like this whole idea of disclosure, right? Like everything will be disclosed. No, probably not. The same way that this information is not fully disclosed until you really find it. That's how the universe works. Like it's not some big trumpet call that's going to happen like fucking on television, like, because they're so corrupt and they're so dirty and they're so dark and they're so deceiving everybody for so long. Do you think that that's a place that the divine is going to come through? No. Like every time I went on a television show over the last decade, the producers always had me change what I was saying and kept it so PG and kept it so like, well, let's talk about the fashion or oh, don't say that about Jay-Z and Beyonce, that they're going to have a bad breakup energy in 2015. Their BET, when I was on BET, their BET, everybody that's on BET is like a BET, like, I forgot what the producer called it. It was like their BET, like, persona. Like, they have contracts that we do things for them. Like, we don't want to lose them. Like, so you can't say anything bad about them. I'm like, okay, well, they're going to have troubles in their relationship. And you got me on the show to talk about, like, which couples are doing well and da-da-da. And Jay-Z and Beyonce in 2015, when Saturn comes into Sag, is not going to look too good. And he's a Sag and she's a Virgo. And I'm looking at their charts and I think that he's going to have some really big issues. And she's very emotional and she's not going to deal with it well. Well, you can watch the episode. I call it out in 2014. You can watch how they change the scenes up, because I call it out and then they're like, oh, I hope that they'll be okay. Okay, it's like, that motherfucker cheated. And then they made money off the album, like, and that's not divine. Like, made money off the album of him cheating and accepting it. Like, really? So I know just from experience going on television, like, everything is not allowed. And I have the receipts. I have the shows. You can just go on my Instagram or you can go anywhere and just click on my link tree or just go on my YouTube and look at all my television shows. Just go to my playlist of TV. You're going to see more than any other astrologer. And fucking, I have been through it all. I have seen it all. I've been on all the reality shows about it. I've done it all. And they have definitely silenced what I wanted to say and turned it into playground stuff, right? So we are all going to see the truth. We are going to get it from God. We're going to get it from the divinity. And we already have, but we're going to get it more than we ever have before. And whether or not the world and other people are going to do that with the South Node and Sag, I don't know. I don't think so. Right? Because they're going to hold their power positions as long as they can and brush it off and not talk about it, even when the truth is right in front of our face and everybody knows it. And that's one of the things that you're going to have to accept through this time. I mean, I'm just going to say it. There's thousands of people who have already passed away from this thing. They don't talk about that. So, right? They try and say like it's safe, it's fine. There's over 100,000 TikToks now of people putting magnets on their arm and it's sticking. 100,000 TikTok videos. And I'm sorry to say, the laughs when they put it on their arm, those are laughs trying to get through trauma. Right? How traumatic would that be? That you put a magnet on somebody's arm who got the shot, and you're like, what the fuck is in this? That's trauma. Those are trauma laughs. Like, ha ha. You could, if you watch all the videos on TikTok and everywhere, and it's like people were trying to tell me in my battle, and I wouldn't even call it a battle, but like my wanting to speak with an astrologer and me just saying that he's being a disgrace at the moment for pushing and telling people who follow his astrology to get this thing because it's just like every other shot they've ever got in their life. And I called him out and said, no, it's not. No, it's not. Stephen Forrest. Like, and then he blocked me. And then he tried to be like, oh, the Leo King, the ego king, and all this crazy stuff, and never addressed the issue at all. And I tried to have an honest conversation in there with him, and he didn't. And then somebody tried to set up a debate with him and I, which I would do professionally, and I would just like, here's the facts here. I would use so much of old Hermetic astrology. I would use the astrology of now, and I'd be able to show receipts of where the divine works and why this thing doesn't make sense, and go into all the data that's not being seen by people that he's probably not even seeing, and use prediction elements of like, hey, like, so what do you think Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter were? And what was the history of that? Like, does he really not believe that there's a corruption of control that would come in, that did in 2020 and did take over? And whoever did take over is the corrupt ones? And he's trying to say that it was the other side that lost control from corruption taking it over? And then throw out all in the news story that person's really the corrupt one when he's not at all. They're just trying to find everything in every way that they can. It's insane. But the whole part of this is realizing you're going to have to, at this moment in your life, realize that the propaganda is going to be big because the sun's squaring Jupiter during this. So let me get back to the chart. I'm going to finish this. I have to go. I'm at my studio at 3:08 a.m. But I care so much about this to get out to people. Deep astrology, I go way deeper. I'm just like covering just like the monad and then like why this Gemini moment's important. But if you want to get into every part of the astrology, and I haven't even talked about Saturn retrograde yet and all that stuff, definitely go on High Vibe because I cover all that. So with the sun squaring Jupiter, here's Jupiter at 0 Pisces and the sun square. You have to remember, like, the truth is in battle with the deception, and the deception's stronger. Jupiter's in its home sign with Neptune there, but also it's also the spirit. This is also a positive thing. Like, this is where the pressure's on for you to continue to be on your quest of your spiritual truth and divinity. And to not fall for the false propaganda that's trying to make you look like maybe you were wrong. No, you were never wrong. The divine is never wrong. Okay? Divine's never wrong. You're going to have to trust the divine and to trust the spirit. And you have to trust your soul. Not like you're going to have to decipher between what you hear in the media, what you hear from all these places and all these things, and ask your soul and ask God, what does God say? That's why I showed you the monad. Does all this make sense? Does all this connect? Why is there so many stories? Why are they trying to throw the alien thing right now out? Why are they throwing financial crisis shit out? Why are they throwing inflation? Jupiter, Neptune, inflation, right? Overinflating. Like, why is everybody trying to act like inflation doesn't exist? It's fucking happening. You can't even, I'm a Moon of Taurus. I love to buy cars. I can't even go. I had Mercedes email me about my Mercedes because it's a very rare Mercedes that I bought last year, trying to buy it for me because it's worth so much money more now because nobody can get that car. They're not making it. And they're like, we'll buy it for more than it's worth. I'm like, no. That's how you know inflation has hit. You can't even go get trucks. You can't even go get, they're trying to buy from people who have newer trucks and everything that they're trying to buy. All the dealers are trying to buy for more and then sell it more to people. It's crazy. So don't overinflate this propaganda anymore, and don't lose sight of the point, which is divinity and the truth. And that you're not allowed and you're not getting the truth from this crazy propaganda. You're only getting the truth from God and people who speak of God, that we're all in this together. So it's not like, you know, we're all like speaking this as a collective together that are listening to God. And I think that part of this, you know, belief system thing here, because it's a south node still, remember, and it's in Sag, right? So with a south node in Sag, the dispositor of Sagittarius, right, with the south node here is Jupiter. And so Jupiter is super strong right now in its home sign, and it's with Neptune, his brother. And so the story and the overinflation of the story is now, it's like a movie, right? So like when you start a movie, it starts, then you build the characters, and then it kind of goes a little high. Then there's a low point. And then right now, where are we at? The high point of like, everything looks fine. And that's when the big monster comes of whatever the darkness is and tries to take it all the way down. Okay. And remember, this is literally down the south. So when you're caught up in still believing, oh, I can go travel everywhere right now and I can do all this stuff, and you're giving away your sovereignty for those kind of things in an illusion. Oh my gosh. Because it's the illusion of the movie and the show. But at the same time, with the sun squaring this, remember the sun, the nodes serve to the pleasure of the sun and the moon. The sun squaring Jupiter, that's a south node dispositor at the moment, is a joke. It's like, I'm not even looking at this as a bad thing. Some people look at it, I've always sometimes interpreted sun square Jupiter as bad luck. I think the bad luck is if you're falling for the illusion and you're falling for things that are not of the divine. Like this would be a bad mistake of taking on more of that. Or, you know, there's so many people right now that are like, you can see like, oh, it looks like because TV is saying it's going better, I'm just going to do this. It looks fine. I'm going to just go this way. I'm going to get rid of my sovereignty. I'm going to get rid of my liberty. Like that's what, you know, one of the number one things in the Knights Templar was to stay potent, to not be poor, not poor from money, but poor from giving away your energy and your sovereignty away, your military might and your social rights away to people, and also doing it out of like trying to be like humble, because it's like, oh, well, you know, I don't want to get anybody sick, or I don't want, like, this is how they do it. They've been doing this for thousands of years. They've been doing this for 1,000 years strong to the Templars, and the Templars knew it. And the Templars knew to help people to understand what was going on. Especially the popes at the time were using the Templars originally for simple things, and then saying, no, you got to go to like battle, and you got to like be our crossing guards basically with fighting everybody and killing people to get us there. And we have tickets that we're selling people to go to the Holy Land. You got to stay in your potency. And this is where you can get rid of that potency right now. And I would hate for that to happen. And what I want to show you is this chart right here. So we're going to go back to 2012 and why this activation point of 0 Gemini is so important at this moment. So it was exactly 9 years to the day, May 20th, 2012, at 4:46 p.m. Pacific, that we had a solar eclipse in Gemini at 0 degrees. This is the year that Venus was retrograde for the last time with an eclipse of Venus. Remember, that was a 2012 and a 2004 cycle. In that 8-year cycle, both times, Venus retrograded in front of the sun enough for us to see it from Earth physically. We could see it. That's a 120-year cycle. Will not happen again for like another 110 years, something like that, okay? This was a south node in Sag at 5 degrees. 5, we're going to have this one at, the sun is coming in with the node at 10, but it's the north node. But it was south node at 5. Ironically enough, this lunar eclipse is going to happen at 5. So this lunar eclipse is going to cover these nodes that's coming. But it was Venus retrograde at 23 degrees. This is where Mercury is going to be squaring Neptune, 22, a degree away. But we have to remember that Venus right now is covering the retrograde space, because Venus went retrograde to 7 degrees in 2012. And then in 2020, we just had a Venus retrograde, remember, and that finished at 4 degrees. So Venus now coming to 16 this week is covering all those retrogrades and like knowing that's never going to happen again, knowing he's never going to have to go through this experience again, even after the retrograde of last year, where we would understand that this is like now with the North Node, now with Mercury, now with the Sun all in the house of Gemini and the Lord being there of Gemini, and the node with the king in there that is served by that is served by the nodes, helping that out. But you have to remember that this was the Palladian solar eclipse that was of 2012 in May 20th through the June, I think it was 4th of 2012. That was the awakening process for people of this Sag, Gemini, energy of the light and the dark. And it was the truth that we were going to start speaking very heavily as light workers, but it was going to take 9 years to get here. So this is the activation that it's true, that the truth is going to prevail. And for you with the Sun square Jupiter moment, to not give up and to not stop the truth and not get rid of the point and lose your stability in the point of the truth. It's very interesting as well because Neptune and Chiron were together here. So now we have Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces. But this was when the sun entered Gemini and it was a solar eclipse. It's a square Neptune. And now we're going to get it square Jupiter, this sun coming into here. And of course, Chiron sucks with Neptune there, right? But that was a horrible transit. I hated Chiron and Pisces with Neptune. We all went through our weird escape and delusions and dark nights of the soul and weird, like, feeling like we were weirdos in the spiritual community. And now with Chiron and Aries, it's weird to see the spiritual community leaving that work behind and turning into these weird identity egos that are based upon not spiritual, but based off like what they're hearing because they don't want to not be a Democrat or something like that. Like, that's really, like, if you really kind of analyze it, it's about that. Like, I don't want to be a Democrat. Like, or I want to be, it's like, I want to be a Democrat. I don't want to not be known as not a Democrat or whatever. I want to still keep my jobs or whatever. It's like fucking weird shit. And this activation point is I think so strong because this was 2 days prior to this. Facebook went public, and this is also when it was a dark moon in Taurus. We had Jupiter in Taurus with Algol right there, and now we're dealing with Jupiter in square to these lunar eclipse coming, but also the sun coming in, and Jupiter was with the eclipse. Now we're seeing the square of it, right? We also, just days prior to this, but that's a different chart, so I don't want to get you all confused too much. But this activated into a very once-in-a-lifetime period of Gemini with Venus retrograde in the nodes, but there was the south node of those that had to listen to the truth and not really see anything come about. We're actually, whether you want to realize it or not, And I know it doesn't seem this way. And I think this is where the illusion is. And I think that this is what I can help people right now with anybody in question about this, is that this is, with the North Node here and with the Sun here, the truth prevailing. The truth has already been prevailing. And you have to realize that anybody who is not allowing this real truth to be seen and is still living in their lie, they still see that it's the truth, but they're too afraid because they're too afraid to be, they don't know how to live up to God. They don't know how to give it to God. They don't know how to apologize and like let God be the one that shows the way. Like, they have a trouble with that. So they're going to hold their position because of some crazy weird Chiron ego that they've lost themselves into. That like, that's going to ruin their career or something. If anything, vulnerability and truth always wins. So especially if they're an astrologer or they're doing spirituality, like, I can't even believe like Gabrielle Bernstein, like, that chick is not even of the light at all anymore. Like, the chick is like all about keeping her fucking woke weird agenda going for book sales and to try and stay like relevant in a world that nobody's paying attention to her. Nobody's paying attention to her. So you're going to have to, at this moment, realize, like, you cannot get a rare period that we are coming into, but that will become true. So the whole 2012 movement, or the 2012 cycle, or the 2012, all of this is all interconnected. The 2012 galactic shift, the 2012 ascension is happening. And it's happening in the area that represents, through all ancient astrology and ancient text, where heaven is. That we are having heaven ascend on this earth. But it is to those that see that truth and can feel it. I was telling Ashley last weekend when her and I had our heavenly moment, but like, it was like crazy because it was like, I had never felt heaven so much in my life. Last weekend and this week, I've been feeling it in every part. At High Vibe, our meeting today, we all felt heaven so extremely. And that's not delusional. The delusion is feeling that heaven doesn't exist on the planet and on our lives. And people, when they say that you're just in fucking delusional world, by believing that heaven, it can be on the earth, and positivity and beauty and love and happiness, that's a delusion. That's a delusion. That the truth is that is what is happening. And so somebody says, is this biblically, like, it's like Revelations, right? It's about how you would understand the truth of Revelations, which is to stay within God and to stay within truth and to stay within listening to the divine keeps you away from the revelations of where the dark is easy to see and to not fall into its trap. That's the simplicity of it. And that if you're not going to put God first, and that God's above everything, and God created everything, and God creates everything that's natural, and everything that is not natural, that is not divine, that is not advocating for blessings, that is not advocating for love, that is not, like think about this. Now, I don't know what it was like in every other country, but in America, when they said you're locked down, did you really lock down? I know I didn't. I did everything I live in California too. We saw friends, we saw family. Like, we didn't let the government, the police even said, no, fuck you. We're not going to take away people's rights. The divine always wins. Okay? The divine always wins. And I actually feel really sorry for people who really fell for the whole spell and like lived their whole life like fucking creeped out on other people. Like, no, you can't come over. No. No, you can't do any of that. Do you think that's godly? No, it's not. And when you try and say, oh, it's science, it's like, no, that's not God though. We're in the same battle that has been going on for 500 years. And I think that the reason why the spiritual community continues to have an issue right now against, number one, having the full truth against science, because science is not the truth. Science changes constantly. It has no constant. Even the periodic table they jacked from the alchemists and took away all the alchemy stuff and made it more kindergarten. But when I look at the work of that hieroglyphic monad at the beginning of this video that we went through, that we have to all, as a community, it's not going to be just one person, unless, I mean, John Dee do it on his own, but in an Aquarian revolution that we're all in, I feel like there's got to be astrologers out there and other astrologers that want to put this work to where it's at today, with where we're at with Chiron, where we're at with all the outer planets, where we're at with even the angles that they weren't using then, with where we're at with even using helio-based astrology, which I use, and a lot of other astrologers are using all this stuff. Like, this is what's going to not be some defeating kind of energy, but just embody the truth more. That, exactly, as somebody says, science is a theory. Like, they have theories, they have no backing. We have God, we have divinity that's everywhere, that has been used for thousands of years, and it is connected to the divine and God. And anybody that uses this divination without that is not in the divine either. So, you know, you see a lot of people like Sam Reynolds, who is a skeptic of astrology already at the beginning. And then, you know, I guess, I mean, he is godly in his own way too. He has his own way, but, you know, like, he didn't talk about connecting those two, you know, like, all he does is complain about the issues that the media brings up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he complains, you know, like, he's a complainer. So, you know, it's like, I have no problem saying the names of the people that are like trying to act all woke and like won't rally up truth. And then they try and say that, oh, you're just safe because you have a bunch of people that will protect you. You just have fans. You don't have friends. It's like, I don't see any of them hanging out with any friends. I don't see any pictures of them with people. They're by themselves. Like I love everybody that watches me. I don't call you fans. I don't even like saying you're followers, because that's just weird. Like, you guys are all just people that all show up, and we all like the same shit or not. Sometimes we disagree, sometimes we not. But I'm real, and you all are real with me, and that's what makes the Leo King channel fucking real. Okay, but I see me outside fucking hanging out with people. I was with a ton of my friends this weekend. I fucking fell in love this weekend. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, there's so many things in the world. Like, so the whole idea that, you know, I'm losing my friends in astrology. I'm losing my friends in astrology that don't believe in divinity, that won't preach it to people that follow astrology, and won't make horoscopes teaching people divinity and using this tool to see what is of not the divine, because there's too many things right now not of the divine, and the real things that are divine we're having to live in the underground, just as astrologers had to do, and as Leonardo da Vinci had to do, and so many of us during this whole time. You really want to fucking continue that fucking story? Like, ridiculous. Like, you should be ashamed of yourself, literally, and you should quit astrology, because you are the reason why astrology is not going to advance forward more, because you are going to keep us in the underground, the ones that are practicing divinity, while you're going to act all woke and just go be part of the woke crowd that is not following divinity and is following craziness and literally psychotic energy and judging the divine. And you're already a skeptic anyway. You were a skeptic of astrology everywhere. So you're always going to be a skeptic, because nobody that follows astrology is ever a skeptic. because you are never a skeptic of God unless God, I guess, changes you in some dramatic way. That's pretty much, but I've never been a skeptic of God. I've never been a skeptic of astrology. I've always been like, yeah, I'm a Leo. Fuck yeah, I am. Oh yeah, fuck yeah, right? Like, you're just trying to act cool, like, oh, fucking, I was a skeptic, and fucking, oh, guess what? Yeah, now I guess astrology works to make you try to make other people believe your astrology or something. Like, that's psychotic. That's fucking just psychotic, straight up. That's just straight psycho. You know, it's sad too. Like, you know, we have, I'm not here to just trash people. I'm here to just speak truth, because Gemini, we need to speak truth as those that follow divinity. Like, why is the other astrologers out there not talking about divinity? Why are they not looking at all this stuff and have the balls? I will say there are some that are, and I will even say their names. William Stick Evers, freaking, well, of course, Christopher Witecki, gosh, Robert Phoenix, fuck yeah, Robert Phoenix. Love that motherfucker. Peter Novak. It's a pretty short list. It's a pretty short list right now. Michael Luton. I got Will Nichols. It's like, where are the so-called, the ones that have done so much for astrology that you can't say anything or call them out? I'm not doing cancel culture either, right? It's like, I'm just like saying like, yo, step up to the plate. If you're the old-time ultimate astrologers, that's what they're trying to tell me, how dare you fucking call out Stephen Forrest? Like, off him telling people that this shot's like every other shot? Like, that's fucking insane. And I'm going to call that out. Oh, Santos Bonacci, sorry. Fucking Santos is the fucking man. Fucking Santos Bonacci for sure. And I do believe Molly McCord as well, although she doesn't really touch a lot of this stuff. She doesn't go into like sensitive issues too much and try to break the mold. So I think it's like, we got to push Molly McCord to like fucking, where does she really believe on all this stuff? She's afraid to come out and say that kind of stuff, and she doesn't show her face. The problem is when you don't show your face, okay? I'm just going to be honest with you. Like, if we're talking about the hieroglyphic monad and we're talking about the planets, they show themselves to find divinity. You know, when you don't show your face, there's a problem. So I love her. I think that she's an amazing astrologer, but I'm advocating for her to show her face, and I'm advocating her to show where she really believes as an astrologer, not just of the astrology, but as a human being, of where she stands on a lot of these major big issues. Santos Bonacci has balls of steel and has done that forever. And I have stood up for him before and fucking got blasted for it. But I will stand up for anybody who speaks truth. And I will stand up for Molly McCord. I just feel like she has to be willing to stand up a little bit more to show who she is. Because if we're not going to see who she is, and we're not going to see where she's at on all the issues and where she really stands, she's a great, amazing astrologer, but it's a little fluff at some point because you're not getting to the issues and you're not giving us the points. And that's what I'm trying to say. I don't talk to Molly McCord. She also, I think, is scared of the Leo King because I think she's afraid that her followers will unfollow her. You have to remember that I'm like the fucking crazy person. So, you know, like, well, on her courses, but on her weekly videos, anything, put it this way, I don't know what Molly McCord looks like. You go to YouTube, it's just a video with like her talking with no face. And so that's what I'm trying to say is publicly and putting your shit on the line of truth of where you stand as a human being and as you stand as an astrologer and a divine follower of the divinity and speak of God's word through the universe. Like, that is what Santos Bonacci does. That is what Robert Phoenix does. That is what William Stick Evers does. That is what Peter Novak does. That is what Will Nichols does. That is what Michael Luton does. That is what the astrologers that know the truth of divinity and listen to it do. But a lot of astrologers are too afraid to go into all this other stuff. No, I'm not crazy. I mean, I might, you know what? I think I'm actually crazy. So I'm probably not crazy because I think I'm crazy. You know what I mean? Like I went through panic disorder for years thinking I was losing my mind, right? And thank God that when I went to my 5 weeks of my outpatient program for group therapy, and I've been seeing a psychologist for 6 years now. You can talk to my psychologist. Like, he'll let you know if I'm crazy or not. That's what I'm saying. I love Molly McCord. I just think that's like, come on, girl. Like, give us all of it. Unhinge yourself. And they're too afraid of losing money. They're too afraid of losing. And it's like, they're too afraid of being associated. That goes against what they're fans. I think Kate Pasha is a gangster too, but I feel like, you know, I've tried to reach out to him to do stuff. No. And, you know, he kind of flip-flops, which I think that's okay. But, you know, I also think that he had to deal with, like, his stuff. And you know what? I don't judge him on whatever he had to do. Like, it's fucking sucks. And I think, you know, I pray for that guy because I love him. And I think that he's, God, such a powerhouse of love and powerhouse of astrology. But I almost feel like he needs to step up more right now. Like hardcore. Like I'm up here 3 a.m. doing it for you all. And going into ancient astrology and showing the proof through the astrology of this entering of the sun in Gemini. And of course, Saturn is retrograding. And there's so much more, but I cover that on High Vibe, and I really wanted to spend this time tonight doing a divinity message to just stay in your truth through this period. It's going to be wild. It's going to be wild, but it is so going to be the most amazing wild of all time if you're in alignment with the divine. And this is where you do not question that anymore because you don't question the divine. That's making you a judge of the divine, which you are not, and that's impossible to be actually using divinity and actually using real logic and actually using real divine intelligence that you were not the one who created this, like the divine did, you know. Rick Levine I love, but he won't touch any of these subjects. He won't weigh it back and forth. I love him, but you know, Nadia Shah doesn't touch any of this stuff. Nadia Shah went against the whole astrology community and against me and another Nadia that was on the NCGR board about trying to bring YouTube astrologers into the mainstream and cut it down and wrote me an email and said sorry, like, because she didn't want to lose her little board position. I love her, but like grow some and like be for the truth community and like put out the truth of the divinity and give us more than sun sign horoscopes about how their week's going to go. Like, come on. I think Pam is amazing. Yeah, and the Palladian channel part of it, and Pam. So actually, yes, I just don't watch them enough. So I don't know what they've been saying lately, but I know what they are. And Pam Gregory is great. And I also there's a lot of other. I mean, I'm not going to be able to catch everybody because there's so many astrologers, right? But like I've definitely worked with a lot of them, but then a lot of them don't want to be associated with me right now or whatever. You know what I mean? They're like, no, I don't want to be with the Leo King. He's crazy. Or they go, oh, he's a Trumper, or he's a conspiracy theory guy, or he fucking, you know what I mean? It's just like, whatever. KRS is my homie, but you know, he also is not talking about this stuff. I think, you know, he has a family and I get it. He knows what's up with the truth. Just, he's not talking about this stuff. That's what I'm trying to say. Is like, who's talking about this stuff? Who's talking about these issues? And like bringing them up and looking from both sides and fucking looking at the astrology. Like fucking and going deeper and teaching and fucking talking about this is the most important thing that is happening to our whole collective at the moment, and which direction it's going to go. Are we going to live in truth, or are we going to go live in some false fucking bullshit lie? And what astrologers out there are doing the lie. You know, I think Cam White is doing a great job, but I also think that he's a little worried. You know, he's one of my good friends. I know him, but I think he's worried to come out and say what he really wants to say, because he doesn't want to get ousted out by all the work he's done in building in his Twitter community. And I think he's doing great work, and he does touch a lot of this stuff. But again, it's like, when is it going to be just like, throw it on the table? Like when Robert Phoenix and I talk, we just throw it all on the table. When William and I talk, just throw it on the table on Facebook and chats and on our posts, and I back him up and shit, and he backs me up, and fucking, you know, Michael Luton just throws it all out there and has forever. Like he's the king of astrology. Michael Luton is the king. Michael Luton knows what's up. Michael Luton is the ultimate gangster. Chris Oteki throws it out in the truth and throws out how to listen to the highest of the light worker community, and started the light worker community, and forever will hold that light and candle, and still is. And I don't know what happened to Nico. I'm not trying to put down people's work. What I'm trying to do at this moment is ask who's going to show up and speak truth. That's my North Node duty call. And it's Gemini. I have to be a Gemini. I'm going to seem crazy. People are going to think that I'm fucking mean, but I'm not being mean. I'm just saying I don't see a lot of astrologers coming out and rapping truth. I see some. Will Nichols is doing it every day on Instagram. You guys should follow Will Nichols. He's an Aries. He's got the balls to do it. William Stick Evers, fucking Aries, got the balls to do it. So, because why would you be afraid of speaking the truth? This is the moment of truth we have waited our lives for as astrologers and people who follow astrology and the divine. Where God is speaking truth, we are being channeled that truth through the divine and intuitively, and we can be able to see what is false, what is not of the divine, and we all need to rally up the other astrologers to not be afraid to step into it. I'm not saying they need to say what I'm saying, whatever their truth is, but these issues that make no sense at all, it's time for those astrologers to step up. Yeah, I love Steve Judd. You know what I mean? But again, like, I think that there's some things that maybe it's not that I don't think he doesn't speak truth, but I think that, you know, he sometimes picks the side of going against the freedom element. He's very leftist, you know, but he's also kind of center. And I love him, and I'm not going to say anything mean about him because there's nothing mean to say. I just think that when it comes to some of these issues, he does take the media side more. That's just my truth. I'm not going to sit up here and if people ask me questions, not say what I feel is my truth, or I'd be lying to you, and then I would not be in my divine self. So, they say exactly, there's nothing wrong. Cam White doesn't want you to channel if you voted for Trump. I unsubscribed and even gotten a reading from him in September. Well, that's his choice, you know. I helped Cam get on his trail when he came to Vegas to my thing, and he didn't have any extra money because he had spent it on the ticket, and I gave him money for food and stuff, and gave him enough for more than just a day of food and extra stuff and whatever he needed, and put him on my channel and everything like that, and, you know, did everything I could to help him out there. And even his new show that he's doing on his own, I commented on his video and thought he was doing a great job. But when I read stuff like that, it's like, sad to see, sad to hear. So, that's crazy. But you know what? You won't hear that. You won't hear that from those people I help or whatever. And I don't need to fucking whatever. But it's like, that's the point to where it's like, how come K Pasha ignores all my things of like, hey buddy, let's fucking do a video together. Let's be two July 23rd Leos and give truth of, we both are on the same page. Maybe maybe you didn't like Trump and maybe I did, but that doesn't matter. We still see the same thing of what we want to bring out for love and truth. And we don't believe in the shot, and we don't believe in people's rights being taken away. Like, like, I just don't get it, like, I just, and that's what my job here is, a double Leo, like, the moon in Taurus. Like, I just am here to, in a 5-1, a manifesting, I'm here to rally everybody up and to the truth. Like, let's go to the truth. Like, don't be afraid of this false truth. Don't be afraid of the, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. I show up here every week for you all. I'm sitting here at 3:48 in the morning right now. Haven't been home yet. Like, did this thing for fucking 2 hours and 41 minutes because this is so important what we're dropping into this week and into this eclipse season and into this Saturn retrograde in Aquarius, which I didn't even get to go into. But that's the Saturn's going to see, like, the frustration is going to be that you followed. The frustration is going to be that you did not connect to your unique, authentic self, that you disconnected from that, and that you gave that power away somewhere else, that you did not take the risk to be different, to be unique, to follow what's Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius, the connection to the divine and how we get there, the understanding of all the things and how the dots of all of that stuff comes together. And it's not through, it's not through fucking some crazy woke fucking weird fucking political agenda shit. Like dictator, like authoritarian shit. So, and when Saturn goes retrograde, you have to remember there's no more going up with Saturn the rest of the year. It's not going to go past 13 degrees. It's going to retrograde back and then come direct in the fall. And next year in 2022, we'll go past this 13 degrees. But that's why, if you're on High Vibe, you'll see me go through the helio for this week. You'll see me see where the Saturn-Uranus conjunction or square is actually happening from the sun's point of view, that we're not actually at that point yet. But Uranus is going to do the weird random thing of square Saturn here coming up. And that's the big thing is, like, I really am on the same page with what, and I give credit with what every astrologer says, and I don't try and jack their shit. William Stickevers made the best post just the other day. And it was literally, the financial crisis will be worse than the pandemic. And I could not say it any better. So that's why I'm giving him the fucking credit for that. And I don't think a lot of people are prepared. It's already happening. And if you're trying to deny that, then you're not looking at truth. Right? It's like, oh, prices of everything have gone up. Scarcity. If you watch my Shattered Reality video for 2021, go watch that video. Every prediction I've made has already come true. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I did that in December of 2020. And I said that you will see the worst scarcities start to come up. And I said around this time, I brought up war in the Middle East. I brought up it's insane. So if you want to continue to say, oh, Leo King, you just come on here and rant. Yeah, you know why? Because I go give all the fucking real shit on High Vibe because I can't put all of it out on here. So I don't know what to tell you all. And I do full presentation style, and where it's on my own app, and where it's with High Vibe, with all of our network and all of our talent and all of our technology that we don't get to use on here. So, I mean, and if you can't afford the $10 a month, or even cheaper if you do like a 6-month subscription, then it's cool. That's why I show up and give you at least all this stuff. And if this helps, it helps. And I'm glad that it does. And Deep Love Tarot and all these kind of other things and other random things. You'll see more stuff this week. But it's just like, you know. And I gotta maintain a network, because there is no spiritual network. If you think Gaia TV is a spiritual network, it's a joke. It's pre-recorded shit that's really old. There's no daily videos. There's no weekly fresh content. That's not a spiritual network. That's a spiritual tomb. So stay in your truth. Definitely watch Deep Astrology. I cover this whole Mercury thing, especially with what's going on from the Saturn-Pluto conjunction with Mercury and the Sun of January 12th in 2020, and how it's deeply going to come to a different, thank God. Because I remember when that happened, I was like, we're fucked for a long time. And when I finally was looking at 2021 last year at the end of 2020, and I really was like, oh, Mercury's in a Cassini on a solar eclipse in Gemini. Oh my gosh, with the North Node. Oh my gosh, the 2012 fucking cycle is coming back up. Oh, thank God that Mercury's going to be able to get purified by the fire of the eclipse in its own home, very close to his mother, that is one of the 7 sisters in the Pleiades. And it's going to be hard for some astrologers out there to even take in John Dee's work or any old Hermetic work, or even Ptolemy's work. So like, I've been buying ancient books. They have another cool book coming Friday that's coming in. That's from 1712. This is actually a piece from 1575. So I'm wondering if I could like put enough light on it so you see that it really is. And this is actually from the first, it was called the Cosmographia. Anyway, it was the first Encyclopedia Britannica, basically. Before that was it. It was in French, it was in Latin, it was in English and German. And this is the 1575 French version about Ptolemy and his work with understanding not only like how the planets and the rotations of the planets work, and his work on that, and also work on the Nile in Egypt and so forth like that. This is from 1575. So I've been just collecting, because everybody, because of this stupid pandemic in Europe, got decimated with money. So guess what they're doing is they're selling all their family and all their ancient astrology and all their ancient alchemy and magic books on eBay, and I'm buying them. That's how I'm hedging in this financial crisis as well, to give you guys the information. I don't know if other astrologers even have the means, or they even think about doing that shit. I don't know if they're going to pull up on a fucking live video. This is what I'm trying to say with like Molly McCord. Like, where are you at? Like, where are you? Come on, hello. Like, you know, show people what the fuck's going on. What are you getting your info from? I had Maya, who can actually read French, translate this for me and read it for me. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. Thank you. That's the beauty of having a network. And what Aquarius is about is a network. So if you want to be part of a network, that's why High Vibe is here. Like, don't know how, you know what I mean? And like, we actually spend the money in life to bring you stuff. And Anne is a history professor who works here full time and literally is a historian and is a doctorate in history and of the 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th centuries of England and Europe and all of the history and the knowledge that I get to just go, hey, what's this about? And she's giving me charts and I'm like deciphering it. And then she's like, this is a place that we are all about the people in every way. Like, I don't know how else to better say it. And just being fucking completely blacklisted from this community and these other astrologers because they're too afraid to start bringing out truth. And they won't, you know what? Where are they spending their money on fucking 500-year-old pieces of paper of the astrology, the actual published shit? No. I'm fucking throwing this thing around because you know what? Ptolemy's probably happy that I'm fucking taking this piece of 500-year-old paper and fucking shaking it up a little bit during this time to wake people up. Like, it's that real. It really is. And all the books that I have in there, that's a new show that's coming. But anyway, I'm going to go home. And you know what? Saturn retrogrades are not frustrating if you did everything and you strived for the top. And you strived to do the best and you showed up and did your work. And in Aquarius, you did it right now for the collective. And you did it about what is Aquarius? It is not Capricorn. Why is Saturn even got a rulership there? Because that's where Saturn learns when he comes to fucking his own dad's house that you can't control the universe. And you can't control the divine and try to take the divine away. Because Aquarius rules Uranus, and Uranus was the ruler of the skies and also of the heavens. And Saturn learns his lesson because he comes over to daddy's house. Uranus, right? Kronos comes over to daddy's house and learns that Saturn in Aquarius is not about controlling the people. He learned that bad lesson by trying to do that when he was in his own sign of Capricorn with Jupiter and fucking Pluto there. And for you to even have the audacity as an astrologer or even try and counter the astrology and say that there was not an agenda and a plan with a hidden plan with Pluto and Jupiter conjunction 3 times and Saturn meeting up with Mercury and the Sun on January 12th. We haven't seen that since 1284. And that's why do you think go watch Purgatory? Because they connected to Dante and all of Dante's work came right after the same conjunction. And he lived through that conjunction with his North No Return. I mean, that's like, it's like, I can't give you it all. And like, it's like so much. I can't, you know what I mean? And like, it's like, nobody's doing that connection except Michael Luton's doing that connection, like with Columbus and Aries and his Aries return and the America's chart and all this crazy shit. Go follow Michael Luton on his Facebook. That's the only way he gets his info out. So at the end of the day, I hope you all know I don't have any negative feelings about any astrologer. The only one really I have a negative feeling about is Sam Reynolds right now. Like, that motherfucker fucking just like really pissed me off. I was just like, what a fucking retard. Like, straight up. Just straight up. Acting so woke and so fucking all this. And acts all fucking like, he's the only one, and I'll call him out. Fucking whatever. You know? And tries to put me down, he tried to put all you down, by the way. Tried to put all you down. Go on my Facebook and go scroll down to May 1st post on my David Lawrence Palmer page, my personal Facebook that is verified with like 30,000+ followers on my personal account. I don't see an astrologer with that. And fucking read the post that I called out Stephen Forrest about how this isn't a fucking shot and this isn't natural. And remember your fucking, I show him the hieroglyphic monad and read what Sam Reynolds has to say about you all. He fucking calls all of you all fucking just like straight followers of me and blind followers of a cult and all this crazy shit. He's a piece of shit. I don't say anything about his followers. Nothing. Zero. I've already called out Nadia Shah about that, you know, when it came to the moment at UAC of 2018, like, and she was on the board and she voted against so many things that were going to help astrology and get all of the astrology community and the millions of people that follow all these other astrologers to get access to the established astrology. Cut that off. I have the email. Got a woman who'd been on the NCGR board named Nadia, that she's Russian, for over 20 years. She's part of that board that fucking got her kicked off the NCGR board. Go look up the Leo King banned video. That's who she is that got banned. That video got banned. And Nadia Shah is connected to that shit. And go watch the video type in David Palmer and Nadia Shah when she interviewed me at UAC 2012. And she says, I have to talk to you. You inspired me for sharing. So you'd think after what I was doing my daily videos and pushing all this shit, and she starts her YouTube channel because she's inspired by me and probably other people, but she was inspired enough to tell me in an interview that she was inspired by me to do her work. And me and the other Nadia show up with like, let's change astrology by advancing it. And I was going to do it for free and show up and pay Craig and pay David Hauser and pay everybody fucking with 4K cameras and shit to bring to the conference and do all this work. And she shot it all down. And then that woman got fucking removed off the board that she had given her life for over 20 years. And they banned the video of me and her talking that was supposed to go out to the whole UAC thing. And I paid a bunch of money for I bought the biggest booth at UAC. And they didn't even show it. And I was promoting for the marketplace. And guess who showed up there and interviewed everybody? Me. And didn't do it for fucking selling a product. I did it to fucking interview people, live stream. I'm the only person that live streamed interviews of astrologers at UAC 2018. But that's the shit that, you know what, at the end of the day, it's like, whatever, it's water under the bridge. I move on. But like that's why you don't see those astrologers like talk. They just are concerned about their YouTube followers. Like, that's so sad. And they're worried about, oh God, well, what will Stephen Forrest think about me? What will fucking this person think about me? Well, you know what? They're just fucking like, that's lame. That's lame. And look at how funny. She cared so much about that board so much, yet it fucking all got dissolved here. And do you think they're going to do anything after the pandemic? They're all fucking so freaked out about fucking some false story and don't even follow astrology. And they're all fucking not at meeting and they're just doing Zoom meetings and nobody's following them and nobody's following them into those circles and nobody's following them into those those established astrology places. They're all fucking... This is a joke. You know? It's a joke. And somebody brought up Marin. I love Marin. I think Marin's amazing. I think that what happened to Marin and how the press and how those TikTok people, and I told Marin this, I was like, fuck them. Like, Marin shows up for her truth. She's been here on High Vibe on the network before. The woke culture tried to take her out, and, you know, she's moved more into crypto now. And I think it's whatever. She's fucking the real deal. She's smart as hell. And she's definitely one of the futures of astrology. And I deeply care for Marin. And I think that she's real and amazing. And she has a radical mind for astrology that I think is beautiful. So I support her 100%. And I think that she got attacked because people were jealous. And when she tried to do, unfortunately, the woke like apology thing to make them feel better, and they attacked her more. And that's how you know that's not of the divine. Yeah, hit up Sam Reynolds and be like, you're part of the Leo King cult. His little woke fucking weird world. He's just an unhappy Scorpio. And he doesn't know how to have fun. And he used to be cool, and he used to be, him and I used to be cool. We had disagreements and stuff. And he was, you know what's even sadder? He was on the same page with me when it came to 2018 and what happened at that conference and what happened with this whole fucking like old boys club. That's what it is, an old boys club, because 66% of the speakers at UAC are board members that get 2 lectures, right? So the whole invitation process is just, you're basically going to watch people in boards who put it together. They don't like to bring in people who outdo them or get more attention. So what did I do? I went and threw I toured for 6 weeks, spent 8 days in Chicago, did the whole UAC, interviewed every astrologer that I possibly could, and then threw a party on that Saturday night across the street. UAC, those people paid thousands of dollars for their tickets. They threw a night with music. It was like 20s, roaring 20s music. The band was so old, the people that were playing, that they fucking couldn't play. So they played it for like 5 minutes and then the music went out. And then they just threw on a fucking stereo and hooked an iPhone to it and had some music. And everybody dressed up. And guess who was throwing a party across the street with the truth? And was DJing and having everybody having a great time. And then it started to be, and then I got kicked out of the place because too many people walked from UAC over to my party at the Art and History building in Chicago. Like, that's the kind of fucked up shit. And then I thought I was super cool with the head of all of UAC and the head of NORWAC, Lauren, and her brother and all that shit. And they won't touch me. Like, her brother Greg and I are fucking good friends, and like she's too afraid because of all this shit, and she's behind a lot of the fucking weird shit that goes on because she allows it. And she doesn't want to advance astrology. She wants control because her parents and all that shit. People have no idea about all this shit because you guys don't fucking follow it because they are that bad at marketing for the establishment of her community of astrology. That's how bad they are. They suck. They don't know what they're doing and they don't bring truth anymore. And they are so afraid and they are so... It's just like you're seeing the control in the world of people that just want to hold on to control. And that's exactly what's happened in the astrology community. And that's why I'm an advocate for truth. And I will always bring truth. And I'll be authentic about you. I'll tell you what's going on in my life, what's not happening good. I fell in love this weekend. And all these things. I will just be real. I will give you the truth. I will fucking show you that the ancients and how they use the truth of astrology. And that's how you're going to see the truth through now. And when it's not natural, and you're talking about an astrology conference and NORWAC, it's a joke. It used to be cool, but it's not. It's because, you know what? They're only just cherry picking off who's woke enough to do it. They don't want any disruption. They don't want to change astrology. They don't want to advance it forward. They don't want to do any of that shit. They don't know how to market it either. So, they just try, you know what? And that's the other thing that Sam Reynolds called me is I'm just a show. Like, Leo King, what have you done for astrology? You're just a show. I'm like, okay, I guess, and even that, I'm going to be real because we're just being real. This is David's midweek free therapy. I have therapy. I was in therapy on Tuesday. This is just truth and waking people up in this community that have no idea do you know where you're getting your astrology from? Do you know what that astrologer stands for? Is that astrologer just doing things and not giving you 100% because they're too worried about what a board thinks? This isn't therapy. This is just truth. And what I'm trying to tell you, if you enjoy what you watch from me, well, I'm just letting you know that my fellow brothers and sisters in astrology blacklist me for talking like this about not even them, but just about fucking the way I do my astrology, that I'm a fucking show. That's not therapy. That's just truth. So, Oh, they're listening. You know what? That's the test. We'll see, right? What if I said all that so you think it's good therapy? What if I'm just so mercurial in such a Gemini moment that I'm like, let's see if they are fucking hearing it. Let's see if they do have minions watching that will let them know and them say something. Think more. You know what I mean? Like, come on. Do you really think that I'm just gonna be real, right? Like, how do you think I know how to get attention? How do you think I know how to get people to listen? How do you think I've made it this far? So you might look at it as like, oh, he did this therapy session. You have no idea what's going on behind this fucking place. You know what I mean? In my 12th house. In my fucking Leo. And knowing how to, sure, there's a show, but there's a realness to the show. And there's also knowing how to hit the right buttons in the right places that are important to truth. And that hit people in ultimate truth. And I'm not afraid to call people out. I'm not. Because, it's not call-out culture, because that's now what Samuel Reynolds called it. Oh, call-out culture. And I'm like, no, I'm not trying to cancel you. I'm not telling other people to not follow them or tell them to apologize. Or I'm just calling them out of, like, this is what happens. Like, this is what they do. Like, that's their sad, pathetic little life. Like, that's all they have. You know what I mean? That's all they have. Like, and they don't talk about God. They don't bring up divinity in the God sense. And they try to act like they're science people. They try to act like they're like from universities, as if they're like scholars and professors of astrology. And the way they do their podcast. Did you do that dissertation correctly? What are the perfections? How's the Hellenistic astrology doing? Oh, is that month hitting? Is that the Lord? Is that the Lord of the perfectional year that you're in for this month? Oh, yeah, Leo. Oh, okay. What do you have in Leo? The sun. Oh, okay. So that's the first month. Oh, okay. Yeah, all right. What level are you in on your lot of fortune of your Hellenistic astrology? Oh, is it loosening of the bond? Yeah, it's loosening of the bond. Yes, it's loosening of the bond. It's a big moment. The loosening of the bond. When do you think people don't watch them? Because they fucking, it's like, I'm ready to fucking do something else. Like, it's like they're not paying attention. Like, why I love John D. We'll just end with this. Like, you know why I love John D? Because you know what? I feel like I relate with this guy a lot. I really do. Like, this motherfucker just doesn't give a fuck. Like, he just, you know what? Not giving a fuck is because we trust God. Right? It's just like the eye of the vulgar will be here, right? Distrustful, right? And it's like he gets to a point to where he's like, these people are just false math, and they don't understand shit. And that's what I'm saying right now to about a lot of astrologers. Like, they are just you know what I mean? Like, really? Like, you know what I mean? Like, okay, like, I'll just be real. Like, Hellenistic astrology has been around a long time. So don't forget that. Don't act like, oh yeah, like, no other astrologers ever brought out Hellenistic astrology before. No other astrologers brought out John D. Yeah, right. A bunch of people have. I'm not the only person. I'm not special. I'm not going to fucking make some whole thing about the hieroglyphic monad fucking at the moment, but I want other astrologers to hang out with me and fucking let's do the new one and bring all the new shit in because it hasn't been done for 500 years. I've got a piece of paper I just showed you all fucking from a book that's 500 years old. Fucking what? 64 and that's 75. So that's 11 years afterwards. That piece of paper after John Dee wrote this. You know. Oh yeah, it's just so good how he just doesn't. Like, look at even him. Based on their look at also these men might persuade others to follow the same path, which likewise will be impassable. Even worse, impostors who are but ghosts of men may maliciously lie about its certainty, pretending that they had explored it fully. That is so the astrology community right now. Finally, these men boldly deny the existence of such mighty works of God. You know what's crazy is like that's what I've been saying for fucking a long time, and I didn't even read this book when I had like been saying that shit. Based on their presumptions, they will first rashly attack these mysteries. Right now, Stephen Forrest will attack this mystery. I'm calling him out. Stephen Forrest will attack this mystery because this mystery doesn't go along with his little shot that he loves so much and promoting it, and it goes against his dictator that he loves, Biden, so much, right? Then, in their despair, they will furiously make false accusations about my integrity. That's exactly what they did. Up here he goes, the second thing that I ask of you is indeed not a light matter. Make certain not to hand these books indiscriminately to just any man. It is not that I begrudge them this or anything better, but I suspect that bad things will result. These poor men may not be able to find their way through the labyrinth as they torture their minds in incredible ways while neglecting to take care of their everyday affairs. I believe I have taken sufficient caution against that misfortune by selecting you as the typographical parent of this newborn child. I am certain you will take great care to send it forth in all ways, shining clearly with all of its members well composed. In this way, it will not be unworthy of a king, nor indeed unworthy of the studies and labors of the philosophers who will frequently be examining it in deep into its innermost parts. You having known, here we'll finish with this and I'm done for real. You having known, oh yeah, you can see it there. You having known, yet having known you for many years, I know you will be cautious in such important business, either because of our friendship or for the good of the Christian Commonwealth, or at least the heroic virtues of the wise Maximilian himself, virtues that are not found in the common sort of men. Yep, these people are all common. I know I have not sought your trust in vain. I know you will be cautious, and because of you, all honest booksellers will be cautious as well. Farewell. You know why? Because at that time, you were persecuted. I'm saying this at the same time when people are persecuted, and I am not taking caution to the wind. You know why? Because John Dee didn't take caution, but he was telling others to be cautious for themselves. So I understand that people, when they watch me and they try and share my videos, that they can get, you got to be cautious with me because I'm going to fucking rattle their cages. I'm going to rattle that shit fucking and their truth that they thought was truth that's not connected to God. I mean, like, if I think he says it best right here. Finally, these men and women, because remember, they just used to use men back then. This is Old English, but remember, this was actually done in Latin and translated in English. These men may boldly deny the existence of such mighty works of God. They say, oh yeah, no, it's the divine. Oh, it's God. No, they don't own the words of God. They don't own the works of God. They don't live and breathe it and speak it every day. They don't preach the word of God. They don't preach the astrological beauty of God. They don't bless the fucking work. They don't teach the blessings about the work from a place of God. They act as if it's just a mystery and not the real mystery of the real beauty of the mystery of the divine that is so clear that you must give credit to the divinity. Like, this motherfucker was so gangster. I love it. I love it. This motherfucker was so G-ball. Like, this was a straight G. This guy was straight G. There was one more thing. Here it is. Like, he even goes into about how the scarab, right, like the dung beetle is cancer from, if you go into Egypt. But there are two other logical ways that we could draw this. I shall not conceal from you here another memorable secret mystery. We have seen that our cross has allowed itself to be divided into two letters. Blah, blah, blah. For reveals, I would counsel those who are bothered by the cruelty of the bird to learn a most useful art from those sun beetles who live by lying hidden for certain courses of time. Even if they themselves do not act, it is still most acceptable if, from the evidence and signs, revenge can be taken on the enemy. If those men to whose minds it first came to telling fables concerning the highest mysteries in nature, fucking Jesus Christ. Sorry to say that, Jesus, but it's what's going on. Like, so many of the world things right now and all this stuff, they are literally telling fables concerning the highest mysteries of nature. And where present, they would confess, O king, that I am not trying to play Aesop, but Oedipus. I know for sure that there are some who, if they had the eagle's egg dissolved by the scarab's artificialness, okay? That's how it was spelled back then, would first combine its shell with the entire pure white of the egg. Then they would smear that compound with all the liquid of the yolk in a skillful way, rolling and rolling some more, just as the scarabs conglomerate their balls. Thus, a great metamorphosis of the egg would occur. Indeed, the white, by those multiple, as it were, spiral revolutions, would certainly disappear as it involutes with the liquid of the egg of the yolk. By this artifice, such a hieroglyphical sign will not displease the stewards of nature. We read that such an artifice was much celebrated in prior centuries by the most venerable and the most ancient philosophers as most certain and most useful. If you are not in a place of that most certain and that most useful of this work, what are you doing here? Later, Anaxagoras made his most excellent medicine from his teaching, as seen in his little book, The Nature of Whirling Around Fast. He who sincerely applies his mind to these mysteries will clearly see that nothing here is outside of the virtue of the hieroglyphical monad. Which you could take that as just, it's the the sacredness of oneness and how it is seen. Like if these people just don't see it. They just don't see it. They don't see it. They are following false math. They're following fables. They're following lies. They're now trying to embed that into being truth. And they are literally part of the problem now. So, I love you all. This was a fun one. We'll see how this one goes. Join High Vibe, watch Deep Astrology, go into the Saturn Retrograde, all the stuff, Deep Astrology and all the daily content's all up right now. It's always up every day, 25 videos a week. I'm doing this over 9 years. It was during this Sun in Gemini with this Sun and Moon when it conjuncted, right, for the solar eclipse exactly 9 years ago on this day, the May 20th that I'm talking right now, that I go watch the videos on YouTube. Type in the David Palmer Horoscope, May 18th, May 19th, May 20th, 2012. And even watch what I was saying. And it'll blow your mind. Like, here I am 9 years later every day. And what's going on? Love you all. Do not, well, I'll be proper. I'm asking you all, it's your choice, to not give up on the divinity, to not give up on the truth that the divine has been telling you in your intuition that you can see. That everything that looks crazy and is against the godly order, that is against the nature of man, that is against the nature of woman, that is against the nature of the divine masculine and the feminine, the love, the holy cross of the truth, and the embodiment of not only the body, the spirit, and the mind, but the Holy Spirit and the essence of God itself. I ask you to please not fall for this propaganda against it. I know that there are brothers and sisters, and I'm not going to call them traitors. They're just not in the light right now, and they're lost. And there's a lot of astrologers out there that I know that are not lost, and they're just afraid. And if this message gets out to them to speak truth and not be afraid, I pray that it does. And I love every astrologer out there for doing their work, but at this moment is when we need you the most, and it's getting hard to look around and go, I can only count on two hands people who are willing to speak the truth and use evidence. Like, they just use the facts off a propaganda machine. Like, they don't have the fact because they're not fucking behind Johns Hopkins University putting those numbers in. They're not. That means it's not truth. And they're putting their truth in scientists, and they're putting their truth in an experiment, and they're putting their truth in a CNN anchor, and they're putting their truth in, especially Project Veritas exposed all that. Like, they're putting their truth in all of that. And I'm showing you the divine truth. So have a good night. Have a great week. You'll see me around. Much love. Adios. Bye.